baby's truly blue, and I lay awake worrying about you. Always gone too soon. Why do you think that I'm writing about you? But it's too late now. But it's too late. Did you find someone new? You deserve the world. Know you find it cruel. Meet me at the station. We can run from it all. No need to worry. I won't let you fall. Let you fall. But my baby is so blue. But my baby is so blue. Sorry, I don't love you. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I can't love you, I can't, I can't love you. My baby is so blue. Love you. My baby is so blue.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first ever Latency Cash Cup. We're here bringing you the action today. That's myself, BiggHungryPhill, and my wonderful co-caster, Jag. Jag, welcome to the broadcast. What is on the docket for today?
We got two semi-final matchups. It's going to be great. This is the first event being put on by Latency. I'm stoked to be here. I'm stoked to be casting with you for the first time. So lots of great stuff. And then at the end of it all, we got the grand finals, $100 on the line, $75 for the winner, $25 for the runner-up. It's going to be a great day of action.
Yeah, it should be very, very good fun. We've, of course, one day of action already under our belts. That was brought to us very kindly by Nata yesterday over on their stream, and we've got the conclusion of those events. And we do have kind of an interesting mix of teams here, right, Jack? We've got not just like the typical Tier 2, Tier 3 names. We've got some pickup teams. We've got some collegiate teams. We do have some Tier 2, Tier 3 teams, particularly looking at GeForce. So a wealth of talent over a range of talent divisions here as well.
Yeah, and before we go into some of the teams that are playing today, I kind of want to talk about some of the teams that got knocked out, because I think if you look at who we have left over, it's a little bit surprising, honestly. Wichita Wolves was a team that I think I was very hyped up on. I actually used to work with them as the head of social media, so I got to put that caveat out there first. Yeah, but they got knocked out early because of GeForce, and I think that's just unfortunate for them. GeForce looking like one of the best teams. Reckless, one of the, I would say, more grassroots orgs that we have in the Overwatch scene. They had two teams, and they had to play each other in the second round. Unfortunately, only one can go on from there, which I believe Reckless Alpha was the one that came up on top of that. And then one team that I find very familiar is the Choke Pokers, another grassroots community team that I actually played against at one point. They made it into the second round, which I think is a pretty big accomplishment, because I believe they were more of like a Diamond Masters ranked team. So it's great to see a lot of grassroots teams that were participating in this. But we're left with the four best teams now, and we're about to see two of them in just a little bit. And it's going to be GeForce, as you said, and University of Oklahoma Crimson.
Yeah, and I was looking at Overwatch, OU Crimson, in terms of like, I've seen them play in things like ECAC, a lot of the collegiate places, never a particularly higher placing team, but a team with a lot of background, a lot of history behind them. So hopefully we get an interesting one. But of course, Jag, it wouldn't be possible for us to bring you this action today without the support of our sponsor. So I want to tell you a little bit about them. First on the docket, we have Dude, and Dude is a social media network for gamers to connect with other gamers with an easy, simple methodology involving profile discovery and instant messaging. Developed by gamers for gamers to serve the purpose of being the all-in-one ultimate hub for gamers. From detail-oriented gamer profile discovery to content creation and networking through the messaging system, gamers are able to utilize and take advantage of the platform's full functionality and indulge in an unmatched user experience that caters to every gamer's need. And if you want to find out a little more about that, just go to dude.gg.
And on top of that, we got more social media help here. If you're trying to, bring all of your social places into one platform, Claim Your Fame social media tool is the place to be for gamers, streamers, and content creators alike. It helps enhance your brand by showcasing all social media pages to one profile to help connect gamers, entertainers, and teams, as well as sponsors. Claim Your Fame will also be a tool for people interested in getting started in esports, as well as those mentioned topics like streaming and content creation. If you want to learn more, be sure to check out claimtofameentertainment.com/claimyourfame.
That's right. Thanks again to those sponsors. We'll be hearing more from them over the course of the day. But that does bring us, Jag, to discussing what we've actually got coming up in our first match. We've already mentioned both of these teams. It's OU Crimson versus GeForce. We've already sung the praises of GeForce as a team that we sort of recognize from elsewhere in the Overwatch esports milieu. What is it about them that makes them stand out here in this tournament?
I think specifically it's some of their players. I think, you look at the roster as a whole, and there's definitely some names you'll notice from Tier 2, Tier 2.5, but the two biggest ones I'm looking at are Infected and Ultima Web. Infected, main tank. Most notably, I'd say from Shoes Money Crew, had a pretty good run with their NA squad for a while. Also was previously on Bear Claw, which is one of the other semifinalists, so I feel like he probably has a little bit at stake here, maybe a little bit of revenge, because he only left in December, so that could be a great finals matchup if we get it. The other one, Ultima Web, I would say is probably the biggest name in the tournament as a whole, former DPS for teams like Noble and Bermuda. Just a great flex DPS. His Echo and I would say Tracer especially are ones to look out for. So I think that's really the biggest components that we'll be looking out for, but it's not just them. It's really, can the whole team mesh together?
Yeah, the name for me that stands out on GeForce, maybe for a slightly more nefarious reason is Magic 8-Ball, because I don't know what your exposure to actually being a play-by-play caster is like, Jag, but if you were trying to say the name Magic 8-Ball at speed, you'll find yourself quite quickly tripping over that one. Themselves known actually as a pretty solid Lucio player, having been on Region, Attack Mode, and now on GeForce as well, so expecting some pretty big, if slightly hard to pronounce things here from Magic 8-Ball in this first match.
Yeah, I haven't had the experience of having to cast a name like that. I usually like to stay to the color side because, don't have to talk as fast, get to think a little bit more about what I get to say. It's hard being a play-by-play, so I have a ton of appreciation for you and everyone else who gets to do it. On the other side, though, looking at OU Crimson, you mentioned, ECAC. That's where we've both been there for different games as casters. I didn't get to see them myself, so I'm excited to see them for the first time ever. But this is a team, as you said, not really the top team in collegiate, but one of the best in the country. I mean, they were number 17th overall in the national ranking as far back as October. Weren't able to crack that top 10. That's a very stacked top 4, I would say, at the top of collegiate right now of all the contenders players that have kind of funneled into teams like Illinois and Maryville and Harrisburg. So there's a lot of, good talent there. But this is a team that is, on scholarships. This is the varsity squad that they have put out today. They do have another team that is more of their JV squad, but this is, kind of a chance to prove themselves. Collegiate hasn't started back up just yet. So this is a great preseason tournament for them to kind of say like, hey, we did great last semester in the fall, but this is going to be a new time for us to shine and really break through into that top squad. And I think beating a squad like GeForce here today would be a great way to get that going. Oh
yeah, that's a real shot in the arm for a team like this. You kind of got to feel a little bit for any team in the collegiate scene in the past year that was up against specifically Illinois State Redbirds. Like when you look at the amount of talent that has moved directly from Redbirds up into Overwatch League for the upcoming season, like it was kind of a battle for second, third, and lower place for a lot of those teams. So yeah, hopefully this is the start of a much stronger run for OU Crimson and, well, maybe even for their junior varsity team. They're often competing alongside or occasionally against one another in this sort of environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are just waiting right now on the first map to be picked. We'll get you more information on that when we can. One thing to note, though, is that the structure has changed from the first day of play. So the first day, the first 2 rounds were predetermined what maps were played. There was no choice. Now, this time around, there's going to be 2 different map pools. One for the semifinals in our 2 matchups, and then a different one for the grand finals. This is only a first of 2 or best of 3, so a lot less maps on the table because of that. I believe no assault. No, actually, there is assault in the map. Let me double check on that. At least not in the first. Not in the semifinals, at least. It's only going to be control, hybrid, and escort. Not in this one or the next one. It does look like we have that first map ready. And it's going to be, I believe, control. So it's going to be Busan that was picked first. This was a sort of random selection. There was no higher seed for this. So, I mean, I'm assuming that there's going to be a lot of different compositions based on this map choice.
I think one of the things that we've not really had a chance to touch on yet is that there's been a bit of a lull, as there often is over the holiday season, in competitive Overwatch. Certainly broadcast competitive Overwatch. And the meta has shifted. There have been some changes. And I believe that this is going to be a lot different to what we were casting before we rang in the new year. And I'm thinking about some of the patches that came in which survived the last experimental card. Things like the 200 damage impact on the Earth Shatter, things of that nature. And I believe we should certainly, for one of the submaps on Busan, assuming we go to Mecha Base, see some Reinhardt, where that sort of change is likely to come into play here. So yeah, it's a little bit all change here in the world of competitive Overwatch.
And the other thing I'm wondering is, when you have that Reinhardt...
Round 1. Capture the objective.
Everything can be hacked.
Early on. I was thinking, would there be a Moira instead of a Bat? But instead, it's going to be more of a dive composition with a Wrecking Ball versus a double shield. So it's going to be really hard for GeForce to break through here, especially with all the CC.
Yeah, it is. And we got the double shield for OU Crimson as GeForce coming in on the dive, as you mentioned. You get Revan here on the Hanzo, looking to peek over the top. Lands the Sonic Arrow, and it's infected with the Power Drive that gets the first kill of the exchange with the Lil V now down. That double shield comp now down to 1 shield. A bit of ground gained here for OU Crimson as they clap back. They're going to be finding 1 kill here. Magic 8-Ball on the freak. Down, there's the flip, and it is GeForce with the point presence to start off here. For me, takes a little bit of a pummeling, in fact, and backs out here. But OU Crimson now playing at the choke, looking to get the D-Mech, and that's going to be Anthony just getting out of that in time. But Revan and Divinity for OU Crimson come in with the double, and it's looking like it might be a quick recap here for OU Crimson.
It's looking like it. Ultimate Web is running around on the Sombra, but really all you can do is contest for a second, if at that. Get the hack, you don't get the contest. You don't even get the Junkratins. You get about 21%. You're getting close to a few ultimates, but anyhow swaps to the Sigma, so no Diva. Probably going to play more with the Zenyatta to try to protect them.
Feeling much better.
Yeah, that's going to be Ultimate Web forced out again here, but 70% towards the EMP. We know there's a big fight-changing ultimate. We're now level pegging here as Magic Mayball finds the first kill. Application Matrix online for Thumper. In comes the blade from Pummy, but down to 2 HP. It's Infected, the close gap there with Power Driver finding 2 and 27% for OU Crimson. We're back on board with GeForce.
The Blade, it did enough. It did exactly what it needed to. It also allows them to save other ultimates like the Transcendence, like the mines that are coming out from Wrecking Ball anytime soon. The EMP also very close by. So there's a lot they can do to stall this out, but a tire from Junkrat's coming out right now, and will it find anything?
Oh, well, tires are a bit late there. Only finds the Equalizer, and arguably Flex DPS for off-tank is not the trade that we're looking for here for OU Crimson. As GeForce around the 50% mark. There's the EMP. That's going to hit 4. Looking for some follow-up here. A little slow going. Only Revan dying as a direct result of that. Jackie Jar down here as well. Anyhow, still in on this one, holding on to the Rabbinic Foot, ready for this next exchange. Beautiful placement there of the Amplification Matrix, beautifully covering the door. GeForce force OU Crimson back to wait.
Also forces the Immortality Field out so early, and they're still going in. They get the Baptiste. I was thinking there, is this Ant Matrix really worth it? But they get that late stagger onto Thumper. That's going to give them basically last pay territory here. If GeForce is able to win this, or even just prevents OU Crimson from taking this point, now they get Divinity too. That's a 5v6 that's OU Crimson's gonna have to force into this. It's looking very likely that GeForce takes this first round here on Boost On.
Yeah, man, GeForce is just playing with so much pressure right now. Control of both the high ground and the low ground chokes. OU Crimson fighting make their way through, and it's a mad dash here from Madero with the Tranquility. Anyhow, is able to find one there with Thumper falling down, but it's a bigger one from Lilby. Lilby and Reven getting in and fighting the double. That's going to be Pummy and Madero both down here. OU Crimson looking good for the retake, but Minefield is out, and that's going to make contesting just that little bit trickier. In fact, I believe that is Lilby's shield down and out. GeForce just keep the hits on coming. Lilby down, Thumper back on the Moira, but only one kill. Divinity finds one before running headlong into a mine. And that's GeForce taking that 100 to 27.
That was quite a wild engagement. We expected Reinhardt here on Mecha Base. We didn't get it. Instead, what we got was a slobber knocker across the board. The Wrecking Ball comp, it should be countered out by the Orisa Sigma. You get the Halt, you get the Accretion. That's a great combination to stop anyone running in. A Brigitte as well with the Shield Bash, but still, Infected, this player that we know is just quite a mad lad, able to run through. I thought for a second there also OU Crimson might have a chance at the very end, especially when it looked like Madero used their Transcendence for their own Gravitic Flex, so I think there's a little bit of a miscommunication there on whose ultimate was being used. It still didn't punish them at the end. They still had too much to roll with, and now they're going to be continue rolling here as Infected again and coming out with the Wrecking Ball.
I think we're seeing GeForce playing a little confident here. Ultimate Weapon out on the Torbjorn. Be a lot of pressure to dive that comes in from OU Crimson, but also very easily punished, particularly when all you're doing is just tending that turret. Thumper finding the first pick of this exchange with the turret going down. Burn with a jump in, trying to deal with anyhow. Effective pops the business and of the anti-healing Maiden. Revan finds the first pick. Madera caught out in the backline. It's down to Magic Mayball to try and get the rest of GeForce aligned. But the dive DPS here from OU Crimson live up to the name, find a quick 1, 2, 3 punch with Divinity taking Infected out of the fight. It's a pretty mixed exchange so far. OU Crimson punching back and nobody opening the point yet, Jag.
Yeah, it looks like they're finally going to cap it here. It's going to be OU Crimson taking priority here as do lose Anyhow as well. This Tracer trying to stall out for a little bit. You talk about the Torbjorn pick. It looks like maybe they're taking this a little bit more seriously now. And the Doomfist as well from Pummy. Not going to land any punches, but Thumper does fall.
Yeah, very patient now on the punch, but having lost that initiation tool, Lil B is able to punish Pummy. Ultimate Web down here as well, yeah. GeForce, I think, definitely over-trusted their capacity in that one. They are going to have to play this a little more confidently. Big stick from Revan, but in fact, it has the HP to make it work, and Revan is down to the melee from the mouse and the ball.
This is kind of an awkward engagement. The rally being used, I think they thought there'd be another push, but it's going to be actually pretty ineffective at the end of the day because this push isn't coming in until right now, so that rally should run out soon. The armor does not last forever like it used to quite a few patches ago.
They've got to be quick here. Anyhow, was able to find one. Lil B goes down to self-destruct. Tommy finds Quinn with the focusing beam, and Divinity goes toe-to-toe with the DPS duo from GeForce, and he comes up lacking that blade. Not enough. Nice cleanup here from GeForce with 44% gain to the point for OU Crimson.
That was a Nano Blade too, so that's 2 ultimates. You're committing the rally on top of that, 3 ultimates, a little bit more point percentage. You get 44 at the end of the day. But you saw there that Divinity just kept trying to push. It didn't have a dash, had no way out, was getting pummeled into oblivion there, and that's what they find as they go back to respawn. GeForce, they do have point presence, they do have a better ultimate advantage. Magic Maple is going to use their Ant Matrix, but there is still a grab that's on side for OU Crimson.
That's an interesting window from Magic Maple. Perhaps not the most impactful ult, but certainly not put down in the most impactful place here. Primal Rage from Quinn to initiate, and it's pinball time here for Madero with the Transcendence. Pushed back and back and back, and frankly, back into safety here. Looking at equalization time here on the points. Hunter's going to go down to Tommy. Infect is still alive and healthy. Jeff J down. OU Crimson lacking the supports. Going to be able to find one, but it's just too little too late here. And you can take out one support here for GeForce, but the remainder is more than capable of leveling that scoreline.
They keep the Graviton Surge on the side of OU Crimson. They forged out the Transcendence, which did knock Madero back to safety. They're also forcing Magic Maple to swap onto the bricks. There's no more Mortality Field. There's really nothing that could stop this combination, especially with the Pulse Bob online from Raven. This could be a huge combination, but they gotta land it perfectly.
Okay, duplication comes through, and it's putting the duplicate onto the tracer this time. Expect that Pulse Bomb online in the blink of an eye. There it is. Whacked into the back. Finds the pick as Lil V goes down here, looking for a second as the chase comes through. Finds it. Jeffy Jar down. Ultimate Weapon use theirs in that fight as well. We're looking to try and close the gap here as we hit 90% for GeForce. OU Crimson get one more go here at taking Busan.
Lil V uses it, but there's no follow-up. No one is there to get it. The Pulse Bomb comes out too late. And Divinity again being staggered out. The picks keep on coming, and no one can touch the point. That's going to be GeForce taking Busan 2-0. I gotta say, both maps, not entirely one-sided, but for the most part, it seems like GeForce was in control.
I think this is sort of an artifact of the older days of Overwatch where we didn't have such a strong collegiate scene. As you would go, a bunch of guys playing together at a university or a college versus a tier 3, tier 2 team. Of course they're going to get slapped, but let's not forget that OU Crimson do have a lot of experience behind them now, and that's showing here. It just might not quite be enough experience to really put pay to the level of time that we have from a team like GeForce in competitive environments, in scrims, in tournaments, in whatever you like.
Yeah, and this is a team from OU Crimson. They even say themselves, we scout this team externally. This is not just a pool of players that we are bringing from university. We are scouting people. We are looking for those next level players that can really ascend our university program. But there's still kind of, I think, a disconnect between collegiate and tier 2 for the time being. As you did talk about earlier, those top teams are getting the best players from tier 2 that eventually do go to Overwatch League, especially in North America. I think OU, they've got a lot of great talent here, but just not at the same level quite yet. I think also you come in with this plan to play double shield on mecha base. You're running a comp that should be superior in that environment against a Wrecking Ball, and you saw there's a little bit of miscommunication here and there that was costing them those fights. I think the Grav Pulse Bomb combination that I'd really hyped up didn't connect when it needed to. The follow-up, it was really just the 2 tanks against the entire team from GeForce. If you look at that fight that happened right there, everyone else is kind of in the backline. I'm not sure if that was GeForce was able just to kind of isolate them away, or just the timing wasn't there. But things like that, they are little in terms of just making sure that everyone's on the same page, but they have big consequences. And I feel like if they had been able to hit that 1-2 punch, this map would still be going.
Yeah, I think we'll be looking a lot more point control gained at the very least here for OU Crimson. A moment I want to highlight from that map that really stood out to me is specifically looking at the Nanoblade from OU Crimson going up against the support line for GeForce, and how difficult it can be to go against characters that, in theory, you have an advantage against because you are doing so much damage, you have so much mobility. When you are going that 1v2 and you've got the damage boost from the Zen and you've got the raw damage output from both characters, like, that is a very punishing situation to go into. And I think it says a lot about the sort of chaotic style that GeForce can do here, where they don't need that full team of support ultimates and healing and shielding and projected bubbles and stuff like that, right? They can rely on the raw mechanical skill of two individual players to back each other up whilst the rest of the team are still out holding down the point and trying to keep things going.
It felt like Madero and Magic Maple, honestly, were just more DPS. Like, just there were 4 DPS on the field for GeForce there.
Yeah.
Especially the way that Madero was using Transcendence. Like, it felt like they were saving themselves more than anything else. You know, screw the rest of the team. I'm just going to stay alive, get that Discord Orb on later in a fight, and just melt someone down. But we're going to see if the support lineup can continue to hold up, as we do have our next and potentially final map in this first of 2 series. It's going to be Havana.
Now, Havana, I think, an interesting map from a community perspective, right? Because I know that at the highest levels of play, it is maybe not the favoured payload map. It's very sniper favoured, particularly at the points A and point C, where you do have those long sight lines, and a good Widowmaker, a good Ashe, a good Hanzo can completely take over this kind of map. And I think it's a look that we haven't really seen too much from either of these teams so far. A little bit of Hanzo coming out from OU Crimson at the start of Mecha Base, but this is a map that could very much come down to who has the best long-range gameplay.
And I think Hanzo's in a really great spot right now. His Storm Arrow change has a rippling effect, I would say. If you haven't been playing recently, his arrows now ricochet once upon impact. So kind of, I would say, reminiscence to his scatter arrow back in the day. Only once, though. So once it hits one surface, hits another one, that is it. But there's a lot of really nice trick shots you can try to set up. I think it'll be a little bit harder on, I would say, A and C, because they're a little bit more open, you know, in the air sort of areas. There aren't a lot of locations or buildings that'll be available for you to kind of just try to knock an arrow off of the side of that and go through. But I think especially point B, like, that's very close quarters. There's a lot of objects and obstacles there, especially with the high ground, low ground, kind of different zones you can be on. So I think Hanzo could be a great pick here, but Widowmaker, still the name of the game, especially on A and C, because those sight lines are incredibly nice for her. There's just so many angles you can find where you can just get one headshot and take out anyone below 200 health. That is an easy elimination.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we should be talking about here is what GeForce's style particularly enables for them and punishes for their opposing team, and that is the Wrecking Ball. If you take a step back here and look at the way that some of the historical meta has been for the EMEA region, if you look at a team like All Year or Avoided as was, very, very practiced at working with flex DPS and a Wrecking Ball to just shut down a Widowmaker. And we know that they have a pretty good Wrecking Ball in the form of Infected and a couple of very strong flex DPS who have an Echo, who have a Pharah, who have a Genji in their midst. So there's going to need to be a lot of resources given over to, if they do opt for a Widowmaker, protecting OU Crimson's Widowmaker and trying to shut down that style of counterplay.
It looks like we will have that Widow online. Well, this is the attacking side, so we'll see if that stays, but this looks very similar to what we saw from GeForce on Mecha Base. OU Crimson. Looks like Thumper's going to be switching to the Zen, I believe, before they were trying to run more of a Brig early on. This makes sense to me, because control, you know, you got to play the point the entire time. You kind of have to go head to head. But when you're on attack first, you can control the point. You can play around it. Zen a little bit farther back. But like you just said, you're still going to have to worry about Infected. Now, it's not only your Widow that can be dived, it's also the Zen. Probably going to have a lot of protection from Jeffy Jaw on that Baptiste. You really don't want to spend a lot of time protecting other support. You want to be focusing on the tanks.
Yeah, ideally, but look at the level of the hold we've got here. You normally see this kind of hold up at the doors of Havana for a brawl comp. Instead, we've got GeForce with kind of a hybrid comp, trying to make that work. And Revan almost taken out in spawn. Lot of pressure here from Anyhow. And this is all good time burnt off the clock, and it's forced OU Crimson onto this double shield composition. He's able to find the first here, and that's Revan down, who is struggling here to find value.
Yeah, and they're just continuing to get pushed back. Vinity also can't get out. I think this is when you go for a Torbjorn, honestly. A Torbjorn, maybe a Reaper. Reaper does so much damage to more beefy boys in the game, so Wrecking Ball Winston can get melted, and then Torbjorn, really good at anti-dive with the turret, also does a lot of great shotgun damage with his ult fire, but we're going to see instead Cassidy come out here for Revan.
Well, certainly a lot of tools here to shut down a Wrecking Ball with the ult on the rock, and of course the flashbang coming in. Divinity finds the first pick here, and it's ultimate weapon down from G-Force. We've already had a minute burnt off the clock here, so it's cost them an ultimate, and they are just about out of spawn with OU Crimson now moving. It's Divinity versus Madero. Madero eventually falls here. That was great time by here from G-Force with a composition that doesn't really suit it. And a big stagger anyhow down. A long way from the team going back to the full 6.
And generally, you're going to be okay with losing that fight eventually on, you know, basically the spawn of the attackers. But the fact that you lose anyhow so late is going to give so much more room and so much more space to OU Crimson. I will say, however, they don't have the full team on the card, so they are losing out on free progress here. You want to have at least 3 to get that max speed. They could have gone around the corner and more, but now Pummy has the EMP, gets flashed out of it!
He flashed with the EMP. Pummy there, but Revan says, no thank you, send that ult back. It's going to be anyhow, they're going to get something done. Divinity focuses him down with the finishing beam complete. The Gravitic Flux, Magic Mate Ball, and probably get the 1-2 between them and OU Crimson. Lacking punch and power, lacking tank. They're starting to move their way back. And Ultima Wep is on the hunt with a dash reset. Looking for one more kill here onto the Orisa. What a stagger. Oh, we're looking to get the Echo here as well. Divinity just retreat.
Divinity also committed the duplicate there, tried to get a blade going, but it gets immediately melted out, gets shield bashed as well. The focus fire from G-Force is incredible, and again, they are back to a spawn hole. It's going to force the Valkyrie out from Thumper, but they're like, okay, we'll just sit while you use the Valk. We'll take out your Cassidy too.
And look at the AD crouch spam there from Gummy. Avoids Revan. Out comes the blade here. It's just a vanilla blade, as you will. No nano boost for this one. Finds one, and then it's back into safety as Revan brings out the Deadeye. 1 and 2 in their sights, and is going to find anyhow. But in the meantime, Madero finds the double Ultimate Web down here as well. And G-Force are forcing back OU Crimson into spawn.
Deer used the Transcendence. Did you see what happened there? They actually got accretion out of theirs. Gravitic Flux, so it's, you know, it's an ultimate. You're like, man, I wish I'd held on to that just a second longer, knowing how well anyhow can hit those rocks. Alright, let's kind of back to the drawing board. Besides Pummy's EMP, they got out Thumper's Transcendence, and yep, there it is.
The EM Pummy on the cards, anyhow finds the first pick. Lil V goes down here. Ideally would like a little more momentum gain from that EMP, but G-Force happy with that for now. They come out of that with the Wrecking Ball ult ready to go, and this is going to be a big, frustrating tool to deal with. It's a widespread and a big pile driver. Close OU Crimson down at the 26-second mark. Not long to get back to the card and get it moving.
Zones them out, it wastes more time. He doesn't get elims, which means OU Crimson will have 2 ultimates both. One's an increased damage done right on the card and affected down.
Oh, Divinity, Thumper, and Revan all getting in on the action. That's a 3K. We're looking to do this in overtime, but OU Crimson looking great for the push into B here.
Still keep their Ant Matrix. They still have both DPS ultimates online, but this is last fight. OU Crimson, they step off the cart for even a moment like that. Overtime was not ticking too fast, but yeah, they do that again. It's probably going to be lights out for them on their attack. G-Force, they do have a Transcendence to work with here.
Anyhow, in a position to get back onto the cart. We've actually got Infected coming in on the Reinhardt for that point presence and the Stain. Darrow with a rush in with the Transcendence, keeps everybody alive. Good. Hasn't seen Revan up in the high ground. Has Infected in their sight. Sees the skull, but Deflect from Ultimate Web takes Revan out of that one, and it's looking good here for G-Mate. Ultimate Web up onto the high ground, deals with Jeffrey Jar, looking for one more slash here to round it out, and just shy of entry into B here for OU Crimson.
It's Ultimate Web's world, and we are just living in it, Phil. Oh my goodness! I thought that. I can't believe that the Cassidy ult. I can't even think right now. That was just. That seems like that was going to be the nail in the coffin for G-Force, at least here. It seems like OU Crimson should be able to get through this point, get another life, and continue on to the second point there. But instead, the Deadeye, it gets deflected. The Blade comes online just in time, and immediately they jump up to the high ground, take care of the Baptiste. From there, G-Force again able to hold out here. It's not the fullest of holds, but it is going to be a 0.1 stop. And all they really have to do is get that first point captured for them to win this the match, and move on to the grand finals.
Yeah, not that big of an ask here for G-Force. We've seen that they've been pretty comfortable all game long so far. For OU Crimson, though, they've got to put up something pretty special here. I've been pretty impressed with Revan's Cassidy. Like, that's actually been probably the standout here on this round for OU Crimson, shutting down Pummy, finding some good value just with the primary fire. And I feel like a lot of pressure here is going to be placed on Revan to replicate that, if not directly improve on that performance in this second round.
That flashbang on the EMP, and they still lost that fight. That's a huge individual play. Team, again, could not follow up, so they're going to try to go for their own full healed here. Really prefer to run this double shield. Pharmacy going to be in the skies and put a lot of splash damage in, but they really got to find some direct rockets to really get the most out of it. And Infected is going to be on the Roadhog.
Oh, yeah. I think Infected is going to go for the spot there. Wanted that early hook and is now back on the Reinhardt. Divinity has currently free reign of the skies. Infected down. Pummy down as well here. And we're looking at another very good time buy with an early point A hold.
That was an interesting charge there by Infected. Maybe just trying to create some space, maybe trying to figure out how this combo is going to be played into. Another dash-in that's going to build up a lot of charge there. You already have used the personal bubble, and now the Amp Matrix is going to come out.
Wow, OU Crimson not afraid to commit resources into this one. They are very close to matching the strength of the point A hold, the spawn door hold that we saw for GeForce on their defensive round, and arguably they're set up better for it. Ultimate Web on the flank on the right-hand side needs to be kept in check here. And Pummy now on the Reaper gets in behind them, but I believe has been spotted by Divinity. Certainly a rocket going their way. Needs to be playing at a much closer range. Gets in, finds some tanks, but now no longer has the Wraith form. And has to deal with the Immortality field, diverts attention, and gets punished by Divinity. Nobody currently directly dealing with the aerial threat, but Ultimate Web sweeping up the ground floor. Jeffy Cha, Quinn, Thumper, all down. Divinity finds one, but Magic Maple focuses them out, and this is a fight for offense. So, GeForce moving on through.
That's a great hold. It's a longer hold than GeForce had in the same spot, but you use Rocket Barrage kind of in an act of desperation when it wasn't really needed. You still have plenty of time to recontest this. It's one ultimate off the board. You do have 4 total coming up right here, but the Transcendents do a lot of healing through most of them. Wouldn't have countered the Barrage, so Divinity, not the best choice there, and now there's going to be the Gravitic Flood.
Oh, there it is. It's zoomed out of time. Madero just makes it in time. Keeps GeForce alive through the remnants of that Gravitic Flux. And now it's Ultimate Web with the Ultimate on board. Magic Maple starts things off here, though. Finds one, finds the Immortality field. Infected lands one with a shatter, but the numbers are looking better here for GeForce than they are for OU Crimson. But Revan, makes me a liar, finds 2. There's still Divinity in the sky, focusing on Pummy, who is surely not long for this world.
Pummy gets all sorts of turnaround. Infected charges in again. No one is on the cart for a moment. They have point presence. They have the tanks alive. They have the Moira healing. They have the Graviton Surge. That might just be to zone everyone out.
Looks like that might be specifically just to take Divinity out of the fight here. That's the Immortality field down, and hey, you gotta love it when aggression works out. Ultimate Web shut down by Revan one more time here, but the numbers for GeForce are just too good. They don't need Ultimate Web. They've got punching power for days here, and the cart rolls off into the point B cap. And that's going to be GeForce taking the 2-0 over OU Crimson and moving into the Grand Finals.
OU Crimson had a great start to their defense, but they never seemed to regain after that stall was broken through. Had a barrage that I would have loved to see held on to for just a little bit longer. Instead, you're going to see them running in one by one. I mean, look at this. There's a coalescence going on all the way in the back line. They're all over the place. They're spread out. That's what GeForce wants. That's what GeForce gets, and also get the victory, 2-0.
Yeah, I think there is an awful lot here for OU Crimson to be proud of. And again, I kind of hammered home the point that this is a match that probably favors a more experienced team like GeForce. But that was a very, very strong for showing lots of very strong individual performances and some great team play elements here from OU Crimson. So I'm excited to see a little bit more from them as you move through the competitive year, and we see them in other tournaments elsewhere, and hopefully maybe even back for some more latency events a little while in the future. But yeah, that's GeForce moving on forwards. We got 2 more matches coming your way, including the lower bracket finals and the grand finals, and they're going to be coming your way after a little break, so don't go too far because we're bringing you more action in just a little while. welcome back, everybody. That's one match gone, 2 more remaining. That's the lower bracket finals, and of course, the grand final. So it's just left to decide who's going up to join GeForce in those grand finals. Still bringing you this action. It's myself, BiggHungryPhill, and of course, the wonderful Jag. And we wouldn't be in a position to bring you this if it wasn't for the sponsors that have helped bring this all to life. So a couple of words from them. Dude is a social media network for gamers to connect with other gamers with an easy, simple method of gamer profile discovery and instant messaging for real-time engagement. And it occurred to me that other than the fact that it is occasionally on screen, I never spelled out dude, so those of you looking for D-U-D-E, incorrect, that's dude, D-O-O-D. Dude is developed by gamers for gamers to serve the purpose as the all-in-one ultimate hub or network for gamers. From detail-oriented gamer profile discovery to content creation and networking through the messaging system, gamers are able to utilize and take advantage of the platform's full functionality and indulge in an unmatched user experience that caters to gamers' every need. Visit dude.gg to find out more.
And of course, we also got to thank Claim Your Fame, the social media tool that will help gamers, streamers, as well as content creators enhance their brand by showcasing all social media pages in one profile to help connect you to everyone you want to, whether it's teams, other content creators, sponsors. Everyone will see all of your stuff in one place. Claim Your Fame will also help you get started in esports if you're looking to find a career in this space. Check out it and learn more. Be sure to check out claimtofameentertainment.com/claimyourfame.
And of course, as well as those 2 sponsors, we have a sponsor that has given us flavored text that I want to do a voice for, which I could not be more excited about. Decades after a nuclear apocalypse, what remains of humanity creates a new sport, battling with radio-controlled vehicles for control of essential resources. Choose from one of 9 vehicles, each with a wide selection of offensive and defensive weapons. Pick the vehicle and loadout that suits your playstyle. Customize your vehicle to express yourself, then enter the arena to fight or survival. KEO, K-E-O, is a team-based online multiplayer vehicle combat game set in a sci-fi post-apocalyptic world. Build your loadout to suit your playstyle and balance your team to dominate the battlefield using futuristic remote-controlled vehicles. The indie studio behind KEO, Red Cat Pig, is an indie studio working hard to create a competitive, fast-paced vehicular combat game. It was released just 1 month ago on Steam via Early Access, and the team has tons of plans in place over the coming weeks and months to add features to the game that will help to increase the player count of the servers. Be sure to grab it now whilst it's still under $10. And with that out of the way, Jag, let's have a look at what was next up on the docket. In fact, before we do that, let's have a look at the bracket. Let's see how we got where we are today.
I gotta say, not only am I excited to play that game, I'm also excited to see where you go with your voice acting career. Both sound pretty awesome, but we've also got some awesome games still left. I mean, here's where we began. Here is where we are now. Every match that was in the first 2 rounds was 2-0. So we have not seen a match up until this point go to an extra map, and this could be that game. Reckless Alpha going up against Bearclaw. We mentioned this earlier. They had to face up against their sister team. They ended up coming out 2-0 against them. Bearclaw also has had a 2-0 run against both their opponents so far. And honestly, these are 2 teams I don't know as well. Bearclaw I know as an org a bit more. They're pretty well known in the tier 2 space, especially in games like Halo and I believe Warzone. Reckless, I think that's a community organization that I believe I've seen around in a few different tournaments, but with how those community organizations work, those rosters are always in flux. So I feel like both of them a little bit unknown coming into this, which might be an advantage as you might not know what to expect against them.
Yeah, I think just having a quick look here on Wikipedia for Reckless, there's some presence here in things like Zotac Cup, MGA Community Overwatch Series. So players a team that has had some precedent here in Overwatch, but again, not a name that we're used to seeing in this. Very hard to predict how this match is going to go when we kind of don't have the game footage or enough game footage to really say. In theory, transitive property, 2-0 for both of them in the first round means it's a close game here, but not much we can do to figure that out. But we have our teams ready, they're locked, they're loaded, they are ready to go into our first map. It is, of course, a control map, and we're going to the classic, Lijiang Tower.
That's my background. I'm excited. I feel like, if any control map, every point has a little bit of a different spice to life, but even with something like Control Center, we expected a mega phase there'd be a lot of brawl. Control Center, I feel like that's more of a map you have to run brawl on, but Gardens, it's usually more of a dive center composition. Sometimes you have the Symmetra teleport, and then on the last one, on Night Market, a lot of Symmetra teleports as well. Could be double shield. There's a lot of variety here, and even with those changes, we thought we might have an idea of what it'll look like. I think it's still anyone's game here, and I'm really excited to see what these initial lock-ins are.
Yeah, of course. A few seconds left before we get to see what exactly is going to be brought out here. But I love Legion Terran point of fact because of the fact that you can see so much, and if you think of how often you see a Junkrat, how often you see a Symmetra, how often you see those two heroes together. We often see those come together in the same map, in the same sub-map here. So, should be an interesting set here. Looking at what's currently being hovered over, though, two substantially different approaches.
Yeah, Bear Claw comp, this is kind of what I say is more of the standard. You teleport in, you set up on point, you let your Doomfist punch everyone into a wall. Reckless Alpha, they're going to be kind of running around the point, avoid the Symmetra, just try to get away from the turret. The teleporter was destroyed, so they're actually going to have to walk all the way around. They still set up, but it just means that this Echo can spam a little bit more and doesn't have to worry about that teleporter for the recontest if they get early elims.
Yeah, I think that might have been Cerulean there actually landing some stickies to destroy that. A little bit hard to gather exactly how that was destroyed. Almost over the edge there for Lucksmith. Bearclaw will be difficult to dislodge. Ooh, the TP used a great effect there to chase down Hut. Zero with a punch back in, but they have now given over control of the point. And it's Abductor putting it in point pressures here for Reckless Alpha. And Zero punches them into the wall, and that's Abductor. Now, another great punch here from Zero. Oh, what a combo! What follow-up! What tracking! What brace! Zero takes Lucksmith out of the fight, looking for a little more push here as Bearclaw have unlocked the point, and they're happy just to stall this out. It's a big, long dive into the sky here from Very Canadian. Stalls the man.
I thought that'd be a very long stall, but it seems like Very Canadian was given a graceful death back to spawn. I don't know what was more impressive, the fact that Lucksmith was able to land that pile driver and stay on the map, or that teleporter rotation. That was beautifully timed. They completely zone out Heart on this Ana, who only has a sleep dart to protect themselves. Now Bearclaw, they can just stay on point, play around that teleporter, and continue to find picks here and there. All they really need is one or two to end a fight. There's not enough sustain for Reckless Alpha to really stay alive and win a 4v6.
Cerulean just looking for that last little bit of damage here to get that duplicate online and can go to town. Amplification Matrix out first. Zero with the big displace. And that Amplification Matrix makes Reckless Alpha keep themselves guess. Dr. lands full bomb, but it's Hydra, the Immortality Field that robs it of any value. And here is the duplication coming through. Reckless Alpha able to find Hydra, and is Zero still alive in the backline. Cerulean actually gets that ultimate online, and now they have to find somewhere to point this self-destruct that's going to find value around the photon barrier. No kills, but a lot of space gained here, and it's allowed Lucksmith to find Tim. Zero is going to go down here. The Shatter coming in, knocks them on their booties, and we're looking to just run out a last couple of kills here for Reckless Alpha to secure the point. Mortality Field used here as well. Reckless Alpha have the kills, but Bearclaw do not want to give this up, Jag.
No, they are stalling up to 80%. I don't know if there's anyone else who can touch their Lucio, their Stim, their Tracer, all still alive. This actually might be turnable.
What? Crazy stuff here from Bearclaw. They've kept this going. They've kept control. It was Tim and it was Graham in to keep this alive and ticking at 94% now for Bearclaw. Reckless Alpha have got to make something big happen.
Just a Tracer, a Pulse Bomb. It doesn't land. It only hits the shield, and that is it, I believe. 99-0. There is still an Echo alive. Can they touch? They cannot. And that is why you run the Symmetra teleporter. You can run up on the Ana, you can teleport over the spawn side, and you can take a map 100-0.
Tenacious stuff here from Bearclaw. I was ready to call that fight done in favor of Reckless Alpha about 40 seconds before it finished in Bearclaw's favor. And if you can just keep that cycle going, you can gain a lot of ground here on a control map.
You absolutely can, and I think percentage-wise, there's I don't remember the exact number, but statistically, if you get that first cap on control, your likelihood of winning the point overall and taking that round here is skyrocketed. I think it's something like 70 plus. So the fact that Bearclaw was able to set up on the point and then just kind of run around willy-nilly as they wanted to was great. They're going to swap things up here. They're still going to have this Symmetra to at least to get people across. I'm assuming they're probably going to swap to something else, like a Tracer. Yep, there it is. And Reckless actually are going to be going to a brawl comp of their own, so a bit of a flip-flop here in terms of who's running what.
Okay, Astronex diverts a lot of attention there just to make sure that the teleporter is out of commission. Not really a strong engage from anybody so far. Reckless Alpha with the point possession right now, but it doesn't unlock for another 3, so Bearclaw unlikely to push in until they have to here. That's the first pick, abducted down, clear with the micro missiles, takes them out. Hydra playing at range here, doing what they can to additionally alternate between healing and damage, and finding great success with it. Clears, able to find Lucksmith, taking the Reinhardt out of the fight, and now Bearclaw surge on forwards. Astronex sends them down into the digital fishies, and that's going to be Bearclaw here with the first cap.
That was so well played there by Bearclaw. Hydra gets the Discord onto a squishy target. Their Wrecking Ball runs in, gets the knockup, gets the pile driver, and then Clear just runs in with the micro missiles. They knock someone down, probably the most important person. The turrets can't be put up, the teleporter can't be put up. They just are able to take the fight to them after that. Very well played, very well timed. Now 2 ultimates on their side, almost 3. There's the third online. A lot of utility here on the side of Bearclaw to get another fight win.
It's Raiden's Fierce here as Hydra finds the opening pick. Lucksmith's down, Clear displaces Aurelium down into the pit. Zero with a duplicate. Might not even have really been necessary here, but you gotta give point style here. Coming on through, wants to find a little bit more charge here just to get that under the line. Might not get it. Up into the skybox and Clear with the fly. Reckless Alpha sent back into their spawn. Self-destruct in over the top. A good shield placement there from Lucksmith. Stops that finding value. Oh, in hindsight, that has secured the D-Mech onto Very Canadian. Beautiful stick, and Tim finds 2. 1 with the right hook, 1 with the post bomb, and a 3rd with the pistols, and this guy is on a tear here.
Yeah, I agree. The duplicate at the beginning of that fight, probably not necessary, but look at what it opened up for them. It forced Reckless Alpha to play in their own spawn for most of that engagement. They could never get out. A lot of things were used from Bearclaw, but they built up a lot of other ultimates in the meantime. And I think we're seeing here why the Baptiste is probably still superior to the Moira. That mortality field is so important. It's going to force out 2 support ultimates from either side.
There's the Molten Core finally aligned from Cerulean. It's bought some space, hasn't found the kills, but it has meant that Bearclaw have had to make them scarce or melt as if in a pool of lava here. It's going to be alive, being Very Canadian back on the point, and Hydra is now down and out of the fight. The amount of healing on board with Bearclaw and diminished. There's the Shadow, but Lucksmith, I believe, is caught in the maelstrom of the mines here from Astronex. Reckless Alpha have the kills in their favor, but Bearclaw are going to drag this to 99. Or they give control over.
Not another 100-0, but still 1 Fate territory for Bearclaw. They do commit a lot there, and it looks like they're swapping maybe to a Brawl comp. They have a Lucio, a Moira. They did a lot of swaps last second to contest that. Graham doesn't actually touch the point, so I'm wondering if they're going to swap back. They are, so that is... They did use both support alters. So this isn't a huge reset of their economy, but still means there's going to be a little bit more wait before those ultimates are back up. And really, besides the duplicate, oh, actually, they're going to have 3 ultimates to work with. Never mind. They still have a lot to work with. Reckless Alpha, all they have is that Coalescence.
Okay, well, you better ask Jim next to make the rotation to be able to point to add a little pressure in. So they find Hydra, but the duplicate comes out, and it's a big pickup. It is the Reinhardt, but forced out of that duplicate by the Coalescence. Heart surges on forward and can't quite make it. Astronex able to find that 1 pick as a parting blow. Reckless Alpha still maintain control of the point.
Remember, with her Fade, she has a really nice jump to it, so that's just unlucky timing. Couldn't get it up onto the point. Means they're going to be able to run in a little pit. The bomb, it's huge, it finds the Lucio.
1-for-1 goes off the spot as the Molten Core comes into play. Brave goes down. Astronex runs him down. That's vehicular manslaughter on the hamster in the ball. Abductor victim to the power driver. Astronex, an absolute terror here for Bearclaw.
There's still a stall coming out, but it's only the Lucio now. They're going to have to switch to something really quick. This is last fight. The ultimate just came online as well. The mines are going to completely isolate the point. Can anyone even make it? I don't think so. And that's going to be another 2-0 control map. It was so close for Reckless Alpha. Bearclaw, they're able to sweep away this victory.
And as we close down the scene for the day, you see the teleporter just appear on that window ledge, seconds away from circumventing that minefield and keeping that contest going. Just a fraction too slow here for Reckless Alpha. But boy, what a showing from Bearclaw. And I mean, it seems about right that we're giving Astronex here the play of the game, because that was a clinic on Reckless.
Absolutely. I mean, it's great because we're also seeing a little bit of variety. We saw Astronex, they can still frag out on the Reinhardt, they can swing for the fences, but here I feel like they really were in control of that map. The way that the team was comboing the pile driver with the Discord orb, with the follow-up from the Diva, as well as the Tracer, like everything was in sync there, and it was just a masterpiece. I think there were a few decisions there that they made. Maybe they didn't need to, like forcing ultimates out on their own side when they didn't have to. The swaps, they didn't really contest, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't punish them at the end of the day. Just let us have a little bit more Overwatch here on Lijiang Tower. Still a victory, and they are looking really good going into map number 2.
Yeah, and I think if they have the option here to pick a map where perhaps the Wrecking Ball doesn't work quite so well, they can start to control the tempo a little more. They can start to have these fights a little more on their term. I mean, as you say, it wasn't just that the Wrecking Ball was the threat. When we saw the swap over onto the Reinhardt, that was similarly difficult to circumnavigate. But when you have a Wrecking Ball of that caliber in a lobby, they do take over a game, and it can be very, very difficult to find your footing once it's been Wrecking Ball drive-by it out from under you.
Yeah, and I like Reckless Alpha's idea. It's just kind of the same thing that we saw on the other side from Bear Claw on the previous point. It's we're going to take control of Gardens in the center. We're going to play around the column. And we're just going to set up Simt turrets, and then just, they're going to have to run into us. The thing was that they ran in one by one. They didn't run as a team, so Wrecking Ball comes in, is out. Eva comes in, is out. Tracer comes in, is out. You can't focus one person out. They're all so speedy, and they're all so fast. They're looking everywhere to try to find a target. And your Reinhardt, even with a Lucio, is not going to be nearly as fast as any of these other heroes that are on the other side. So I think there, it still worked out better than it did previously, when they kind of were doing the opposite. When they were running the Wrecking Ball comp, couldn't find as much success as they were on the Brawl, which makes me think you want to probably run a more Brawl map. But these options, Havana, Route 66, and Dorado, aren't necessarily the most Reinhardt friendly, honestly.
No, I think maybe out of those you would pick Route 66, but again, it's not like it's not King's Row, it's not Reinhardt's Playground, it's not one of these classic Reinhardt maps. There are a lot more coherent options you can pick. I'm thinking that, to be frank, a lot of payload maps really favor the double shield. Several payload maps also allow you to run a Wrecking Ball, particularly where you've got good high ground control. So Dorado, I'm thinking Point A gives you a lot of places to power drive from and a lot of places to sling your way around. So it's a hard task here if you're looking to try and either capitalize on playing a Reinhardt or capitalize on shutting down a Wrecking Ball. And of course, this is first to 2 series. This is match point. One more map here for Bear Claw sees them move up into the grand finals.
Yeah, you don't have any leeway if you're Reckless Alpha, and it is your map pick as the losing team, so we're going to see what that is. It is going to be Route 66.
Okay.
So I believe this is the one that you had said is probably the best option for them, and they said, yeah, we agree with BiggHungryPhill here. And
finally, vindication.
Yeah, you have been vindicated, and I agree with it too. I think especially Dorado would have been really difficult. I think even like Winston would be a great choice there. Route 66, there is high ground, and I think especially on that second point, there's going to be a lot to really deal with, but first point, third point, not really as difficult to run with. Double shield could be really good if you just set up on the cart. Reinhardt also could be good. One thing I'd love to see the attacking team, whichever side the first team is on, but the attacking team, I'd love to see them do the move where you jump on the payload, especially if you're running Brawl, and you just kind of take big girls away from them, because that's where a lot of teams set up on defense. You actually can just jump up. If you reach the top of the payload, you can jump onto it and just run straight into them instead of having to run all the way around and try to go up the stairs.
Yeah, you absolutely can. Worth noting also, Duke, that we have some substitutions coming in. Despite Hydra having had a standout performance in that last round, we are seeing Pink coming in here on the support. So suggests to me either we're looking at a rotation for playtime, or we have a specific strategy in mind here for Bear Claw that requires Pink coming in and Hydra going out.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice, and in the support, there's not a lot of heroes to play currently for support, so usually you'll see this done for maybe like a double flex support sort of thing, like a BAP Zen, or maybe BAP Brig or Brig Zen, but they ran that pretty proficiently anyway, so maybe this is going to be more of like a Mercy role swap, something like that. Mercy specialists do still exist, and I think Mercy honestly is one of the most tricky roles to play, not necessarily mechanics wise, but I think understanding the game, kind of knowing when to fly up, when to heal, when to damage. There's a lot of timing things that are really important. So if you have a specialist in that regard who's really good at pocketing someone, this is the perfect time to bring them out.
Yeah, I know the Mercy mains that I talk to, that I have in my friend circle, are very much of the opinion that if you don't know what your responsibilities are on Mercy and how to prioritize that, get off the heroes so that they can have them instead, because they do know what those are. So whilst it's easy to scoff at the mechanics of a Mercy main, game sense plays a very, very big part in that, and there is a world of difference between a good Mercy and a bad Mercy. Of course, this is speculation. We don't know exactly why Pink has been brought in. This is just our best guess at that. So we are still just waiting on that final ready tick for this match to start. I believe we've got Bearclaw starting on attack this time. So that's their pick for positioning. Again, clearly they have a plan for this. My guess is they want to set the pace of this map and get it over with on their terms.
Yeah, and I think we might actually be seeing the future here, because I am getting some information from production that Pink themselves wrote in the game. Pink Mercy Specialist is in, so maybe it's a meme.
Look, I didn't want to say with a name like Pink, it certainly suggests Mercy main. I think there's a little bit too much reading into that one, but wouldn't surprise me. Let's put it that way.
For me, it's honestly not the name. It's just like I'm thinking about like the hero pools that we saw in the last match. I'm like, this is like the one support we didn't see. I think out of almost all of them, we saw Lucio, we saw Zen, Brig, Moira, Pap. So this is really like the lone one we haven't seen just yet, except for Ana. So this made a lot of sense in my head. No disrespect to the name. I'm excited to see what they can do here, but I mean, I'm happy that we kind of guesstimated that one correctly, unless, they're an honest specialist and we're completely wrong. We'll have to find out. I don't think they could find that out from the broadcast. We are on a bit of a delay, just to keep everything all good.
The angle that we've not looked at here is that maybe this is like a psychological trick. They come in and go, oh yes, of course I'm a Mercy main, and actually they're setting up for some sort of very specific Ana Genji Sombra win condition on 66. Maybe not. Well, we can stop what's the word I want? Stop speculating and see what's happening. Pink is going to be coming in on the Mercy so far, but of course that is offensive spawn. Easy for me to get swapped on that. Let's instead have a look at the defense for Jag.
Yeah, so it looks like they want to run the Wrecking Ball comp again, and it wasn't that this was unsuccessful on Lijiang Night Market. It was just that they were kind of out-rotated. The Symmetra teleports that came out from Bearclaw were kind of just a great counter. Like, all right, you're on the point. All right, we're going to go after your Ana who's all the way in the back line. This comp, it's really going to be the Brig and the Zen playing together, so there's not really a lot you can do to zone out one person. Specifically, the D.Va also very keen and can help just kind of run back to them and help the supports. Bearclaw, it looks like they are actually committing to this pirate ship. So everyone's going to be on the point.
I've been playing a lot of quick play in the past couple of days, and it just made me shudder. One small amount of coordination can make a Bastion very powerful. Reckless Alpha do actually have some of the tools here they need to displace the Bastion. I'm looking at the hacks, I'm looking at the wood, but it can be very difficult. I'll drive it in. A lot of damage in the way of... well, actually, Bearclaw finding the kills here. I was looking at this. Reckless Alpha put out a lot of damage, but it's Bearclaw to take out Carillion and very clear. They haven't stopped the roll of the payload just yet, and they're making themselves scarce.
You can get the res. Do it, no hit. That means no harm, no foul. You just charge up your Bastion ultimate a little bit more. That tank mode coming online pretty soon. And these engagements can be really tricky to do, especially when Zero still has those sight lines on Widowmaker.
Well, there's hack. A bit of trouble here. I think currently nobody really pressuring Tim, and that hack is going to expire, allows him to get set back up on the card here. Eric Naden, dive on through, helps secure the pick onto look Smith. Okay, still keeping it rolling, and it is configuration tank time. There's two Graham back in to fight Zero. Finds Carillion, and Tim hides the head hit. They close the gap with Abductor, who does not have a healing ability, and Abductor goes down. What a push here from Bearclaw.
Sentry mode Bastion is the best mode, but I like the Scout, honestly. I like when he's just running around with his primary fire. You don't do nearly as much damage, but a Bastion mobile is what I want to see. Bearclaw, they get that first point. Use tank mode, but that's about it. They have about everything else to work with. This Transcendence has to be well timed to counter everything that Bearclaw is about to throw at them. And a hack on a Tim. It's that first elim.
Might just have that res online. About has that ability. Oh, that's a 1v1 for the ages. Abductor gets the better here of Zero. Lands the NC, and then it's on to Abductor. Field with that immortality field. The res comes through. Graham is back in, but I can't see Graham surviving all that long if Bearclaw as Reckless Alpha mounts the defense.
You saw what happened there is that Pink uses the Valkyrie, tries to go for the res, but Ashley gets hacked out of it, so you still can fly around. You can't get the res, you can't fly specifically to anyone. The primary abilities are offline, so very well timed by this Sombra. Reckless Alpha, they might find themselves in a great chance to hold here in Bearclaw. If you're looking at this, you might think maybe it's time to swap off the Bastion onto something else, because Tim right now is the primary target of all 6 members of Reckless.
think at 85% of the ultimate, you maybe give the configuration tank one more go. But yeah, any more than that, I want to see this Bastion done and dusted. To start things off here with a self-destruct and a good measure from Abductor. Will momentarily slow the roll and Carulium down just as the EMP comes into fruition. Very Canadian out of the mech here as well. Their claw are finding kills, and it is Tim on the hunt with the tank configuration. And Abductor decides that Heart is not a target they can take in the 1v1 here, but Eklor regaining control of the card. Once they get that Bastion back in place, it will be hard to slow that roll.
Looks like they actually might be setting up Bastion on the high ground instead of the cart, which is very interesting. It's going to force Reckless Alpha to decide, do we play cart or do we play against this DPS? And it looks like they're not going to have much of an option because everyone is falling.
Yeah, and there's just... It feels redundant because, of course, there is so much damage coming into the Bastion. SN Lucksmith in to stall that out is going to be hard going. And Bearclaw can spot when they can afford to take and press the advantage here. They are taking space basically for free.
You get the Ant Matrix out as well as the Orisa ultimate, so there's no extra damage on the side of Bearclaw. There is no mercy either. Pink actually swapped to the Brigitte, so no damage boost for anyone right now. Probably to stop the Wrecking Ball from running in. Shield Bash is a very useful and nifty tool. Critic Flux going to be thrown in here.
And we do get the Transcendence. It's not enough! Burst damage here from the Critic Flux taking it out of the fight. It's clear. Hacked up against Carulium, who is forced out. The shield there from Clear doing a lot in this one. And it's going to be Tim taking the high ground again. I think failed to make that jump, and instead just waits it out on the low ground. These Lucksmith coming in over the top. They drop the minefield, and now Bearclaw have to scramble to safety. Immortality will be used here by Graham, but Bearclaw uses momentarily lulling the action to find a couple of picks here as Carulium and Very Canadian go down. There is the bomb in the offing from Abductor, but this is likely to be a stall action. Tim up on the high ground, hacked out, and Lucksmith focused down one more time by Clear. Playing an angle off the left-hand side. Yeah, Arc is still contested, but now Tim has the high ground and hacked out once again. Great stuff here for Korean. He's about to get that EMP online again.
But can they shut down this Ant Matrix? It's already there, so they're going to be dealing so much damage to them. Even with the EMP connected, they don't get the Bastion. Tank form is online. They don't touch! And I don't know if there's much they could have done there, Phil, but there could have been a stall at least for a little bit. There's only 2 members alive for Reckless Alpha. Good first point. Doesn't lead to anything.
If there is one thing that is worse than losing a round of Overwatch, it is losing a round of Overwatch to a Bastion. Because, Bastion in the community has this kind of reputation as, fine, he pub stomps at low ranks, but at high ranks he's very easy to shut down. Bearclaw just ran Tim of the Bastion all the way through, including 3 card retakes with the Bastion. Very hard to pull off. That's got to be a bit of a downer here for Reckless Alpha, right?
Somewhere Bastion Main is smiling. he just knows,
Even
right?
worse.
Like somewhere out there. I don't know where, but Bastion Main is like, oh yes, someone running pirate ship with my main. Oh, you'll love to see it if you're them, but yeah, I mean, I get
twitching.
Exactly, just like it's like a sixth sense. I hate seeing Bastion in my games. I'm always like, oh man, really? We gotta go against this. Even if it's on my own team, it's like, oh man, I gotta play with this. But if it works, it works, and it's a very valid strategy. It's something that my collegiate team used to run all the time on King's Row, especially. You teleport onto the high ground and just let the Bastion spray away. You're not going to be doing it here on the defense, which I think is the right play to make. Instead, they're going to be running a bit of a hybrid comp here for the double shield, a more brawly double shield with the Moira, with the Lucio, with the Sigma, and the Rhine. Reckless Alpha, they're essentially running the exact same thing they just ran. They're going to try to continue using this Wrecking Ball, which, again, it's been successful here and there, but not enough to really win out a point or a map yet.
This is a lot of pressure being put into it. They were just having the opening choke already 1/3 of the way to having their ultimate line. There's out with the high ground. William down to Tim here, now on to Cassidy. Down to the wall. Burst damage here from the Junkrat and Airclaw with defense. Yes, Asterix, I know it's frustrating. You can see the Wrecking Ball. You want the Wrecking Ball, but they are sadly out of reach.
And the way this comp is run, it's so smart because you can still run in with the Rhine, but you have so much crowd control. Whether it is the boot from the Lucio, the trap from the Junkrat, the Sigma accretion, there's so many ways to get this Wrecking Ball where anyone else is trying to flank you out of your way, and that is why they're able to hold on to this point so closely.
Move on. Ash here, but both supports taken off the table instantaneously here by Reckless Alpha. Abductor able to find Tim, and that's where we start to see developing here from Bearclaw. Now that they're in the 5v6 against Sam Reckless Alpha, they're all back up. They can start to push this. Zero now has the tire online, and that is going to shut this down.
Not only that, like even if you lose this, like you're happy with how much time you put off the clock, but can you hold on to this? No, the tire gets destroyed by the flail. What?
That's great from Calico, man. I think the tire may have started on fire there. I'm not quite sure on the mechanics interaction on that one. That's going to go down, but Abductor has the high ground. Potent! Oh! With him on the soldier, coming up top from on that one. Abductor in charge, and Graham turns forward with the coalesce. Try and keep Astronex alive through this. Now back into damage mode, tries to clear up, looks to the stick with a sliver of health. Comes Bob Abductor. Presence for certain. She's back there, Claw, but so far no presence gained. With nearly 2 minutes knocked off, the cart having gone nowhere.
You do get the Junkrat, you don't get the Rhine, and that's what that Bob was for. It was to completely take out the Reinhardt. Still alive. Now they've got a backup. This could be finally something in the way of Reckless Alpha.
Big hack there on the they will survive through that. They got what was required, and that's Ceruleum's EMP. Pink launches themselves into the fight there with the sound barrier, keeps everybody alive through there, and Bearclaw surge back forward. It's through onto the boot. The Canadian Wizards find Astro negative. Bearclaw are slowing this roll from Reckless Alpha.
They absolutely are, and if you're going for the EMP, who are the two targets you want to get most? It's going to be the Zenyatta or the Lucio. Zenyatta can not be cancelled once you use the Transcendence. Lucio can be, but there just waits. But that shot, that takes out Zera. And there's openings for Reckless Alpha, they just haven't been able to capitalize yet.
I've done a real bright doing a lot of work with England tracks. Bearclaw still resilient, though, a lot of bulk, a lot of survivability available. Speaking of which, in comes Graham with Transcendence, countered by the self-destruct of Bearclaw. They dissipate, they bend, they don't break, and they avoid that self-destruct. They come back in and fire hard. Brigadier able to find one, finds the second with a bit of chin music. They can pink out of like Conductor, lands that TNT big. Tim's able to find very Canadian taking the Diva out of the fight. Bearclaw have finally got this cart to a much more advantageous position as Abductor looks to take the 1v1 here with Zero, who does not have the support to keep them alive.
Also has the Bob, the Nano as well, EMP. There's a lot of ultimates for Reckless Alpha. They got to play their cards right. They can't use too many things early. They can't use too many things overall, considering that's basically taken in their entire initial timing to even get to this spot here. And there's the Bob coming out.
Oh, and that is a great set of minds there. That's going to require Clear to sacrifice their shield to try and get them out of the way. And they do find the contest coming in here, 0.51 meters away. Tim falls in the middle of that tactical visor, EMP'd, and then Abductor with the headshot. Astra next lands the shatter, Calico Master down. Pink follows up on the fire strike and takes him out of it. Very Canadian, Nano boost from Very Canadian. We get the self-destruct, we get the foot, we are all in on all from everybody here, Jack, and it's Zero with the double. One here for the self-destruct. We're able to find one. Clear finds Abductor. High noon on the high ground from Zero. Shuts down Reckless Alpha. Less than a meter from a cap into B and a continuation of the map. And that's Bearclaw with a 2-0 up into the grand finals.
And what was I saying right before that fight started? You can't use too many things early. You can't use them at the same time. And they throw the Bob and the mines at the exact same time. I love the Bob first. I love it delaying and denying them that entry. But the mines, you could have held on to that a little bit longer once they got to the point. That's when you use that, especially when Hart threw in an amazing anti-nade. That's how they got the kill on the visor, I'm pretty sure. They got an anti-nade that hit about 4 or 5 members there of Bearclaw. And I thought that was the end of it. But then the ults, they were there still for Bearclaw. Despite losing the visor, they had everything else, the coalescence as well. The Nano being thrown onto the Diva, not always the best choice in those kind of scenarios. The Flux hits everyone. And Bearclaw, by the skin of their teeth, are able to get that full hold on first point, get it to a victory, and we have our grand finals set.
We do. Should be, as they say in the industry, a bit of a slobber knocker on this one. G-Force versus Bearclaw. We're going to get that one lined up for you. And while we do, we're going to throw it to a quick break. Don't go too far because we have even more action coming your way in just a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Here we are with the final of today's matches, and in fact, the grand final of today's matches. BiggHungryPhill and Jag still with you for what remains of our time together. Jag, what is this final match? What have we got to look forward to?
We're going to end the Overwatch Cash Cup with a banger. It's going to be the two teams, honestly, that I had expected looking at this bracket to be here, and they are GeForce versus BearClaw, two teams that have had undefeated runs so far through the bracket. Both looked very impressive when it came to Wrecking Ball compositions. I will say BearClaw, a little bit more versatile overall, ran a lot of different things today, but GeForce, they looked indestructible in what they ran. And I'm excited. It's going to be a first to three. So this time we are guaranteed a third map to say, no matter what. But since no game has gone to extra maps yet, this has to be the one, right? This has to be the one. This is the only one it can be.
It's statistically the most likely to go the distance. In theory, these are the two best teams in the tournament. So yeah, hopefully we see more than just our first third map. Maybe we'll see a fourth, maybe even a fifth. But before we can get to that, one more time, thank you so much to our sponsors for allowing us to bring you this today. Without their support, none of this would have been possible. For Latency, for myself, for Jag, for all the production staff. So one more time, let's hear from our friends at Dude, which is of course a social network for gamers to connect with other gamers with an easy, simple method of gamer profile discovery and instant messaging for real-time engagement. Developed by gamers for gamers to serve the purpose of being an all-in-one ultimate hub or network for gamers. From detail-oriented gamer profile discovery to content creation and networking through the messaging system, gamers able to utilize and take advantage of the platform's full functionality and indulge in an unmatched user experience that caters for gamers' every need. Visit dude.gg, that's DOOD.gg for more information.
Now, of course, one last shout out as well to Claim Your Fame, the social media tool that will help gamers, streamers, and content creators enhance their brand by showcasing all social media pages to one profile to help you connect to other gamers, entertainers, teams, as well as sponsors. Claim Your Fame is also a great tool for people looking to get into esports streaming and content creation. If you want to learn more, be sure to check out their website, claimtofameentertainment.com/claimyourfame.
Well, with that out of the way, let's begin our preparations to bring you the final match. Let's have a look at the bracket and see how we got here today, Jag. So it has been 2 and Overwatch all weekend long, both GeForce and BearClaw not dropping a single map. This is going to be the first time either of them will have dropped a map in this grand final.
And that's the best way, right? If you're going to lose one, it's going to be at the end of the day. Both teams have made it in it to the prize pool. So $75 versus $25 in this $100 grand prize. We'll see which way that cookie crumbles. I gotta say, I think, just from the matchups that we saw, BearClaw looked a little bit less dominant, I would say. GeForce, they were able to hold both points. The caps were a little bit less on control. BearClaw looks a little bit hit or miss, but they also looked very dominant on their attack. Got a 3-0 with 240 plus when they did go to that second map, Route 66, and then we're able to full hold. I think we're in for quite an amazing series, and I want to see which map we're going to first. This map pool is a little bit different, so we might see a bit of variety here, and it's going to be Oasis for our first choice.
That's right, starting out with the control, and for the first time all weekend long, we will be having an assault map, and that's going to be in round 2. We also finally get our first hybrid map. Hybrid map will be third. So we're having our first hybrid and our first assault map of the tournament so far today. And we've not seen Oasis yet on broadcast today. So I'm glad that we're taking it to a third control map and we get a little bit of variety.
Yeah, I feel like the Wrecking Ball comps are going to come out galore, especially if we go to City Center. University, I feel like that could be more brawl-oriented, but even when we thought it would be like that on Mecha Base, it wasn't. In that third point, I feel like anything's on the table. So I'm really interested to see what these two teams have done, because they've been studying each other. They've been watching the broadcast to see who their opponent could be.
Yeah, and we also have to start to factor in length of tournament and break time into our estimation, because of course BearClaw have had around about 10 minutes since they finished their last game, whereas it's been a little over an hour for GeForce. And so they may be a little bit cooled down, they may be a little bit more relaxed than BearClaw. BearClaw may be feeling a little bit tired, and I guess until these two teams finally clash in the middle of Oasis, we won't really know exactly what is on offer.
I want to play devil's advocate to that because I completely agree. There could be a lot of fatigue for Bearclaw having a lot less time to get ready for this. On the other foot, though, they could actually be more prepared. They're ready to go. They're more revved up. They're just coming out of a match. They're not nearly as cold as potentially, you could see from GeForce, who I'm assuming have probably been, playing either quick play or some sort of game mode to stay warm and not let those mechanics go out the window. But we're going to have to see which comes into fruition here, as it is going to be Gardens here on Oasis first, and this one I feel like we're going to see Wrecking Ball. That's just my guesstimation.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot to do with the matchup between Astra Nex and Infected, and we've got 20 seconds before anybody is out of the running for this one, but Zira and Pummy both coming in potentially with that EMP could do a lot to shut down a Wrecking Ball. Having said that, Bearclaw have now made wholesale swaps in the time I was trying to analyze them.
Yeah, maybe expecting the Wrecking Ball, going to try to shut it down with the Brigitte, with the Hulk coming out from the Orisa. These matches, I'm assuming, probably will go out once the teleporter is gone. And just as a reminder, Infected used to play on Bearclaw as recently as just a month ago, so this is going to be a bit of a revenge matchup for him if he's able to get the victory here.
Health pack denial already coming in for GeForce, Pummy hacking that large central health pack. Bearclaw have taken the high ground behind this Orisa shield. That gives them a lot of control here, but GeForce, if they can send Infected up there with a big roll through and displace some players, that could prove difficult for them. And nobody really properly engaging just yet, waiting for the point to unlock. Bearclaw now have the point presence with that Orisa on cart. Infected needs to do some work here to displace this setup. In the meantime, however, Tim has taken the high ground, tries to pressure out Pummy, who is forced to translocate away. Flashbang's going to miss. That's intentionally pushed out there by Infected. Bearclaw still nearly have the cap in their favor. GeForce struggling to dislodge them here. Waiting for that first big kill to come through, and it is Infected. Down and out. Clear gets the second. Anyhow, is going to find one with a punch back. If 2 kills is not good enough for them to secure the point, maybe the third will be, as Tim takes anyhow out of the fight. Zero with a pulse bomb doesn't need to throw it in, and Bearclaw get the opening cap.
Yeah, Pink is in for this matchup, by the way. Played a lot of Mercy last time, but also on the Baptiste now, so that hero pool is pretty deep. Probably looking to play Mercy later on, is my guess, or something that maybe Hydra cannot. And they had a great rotation there. They just put their DPS on the high ground, leave Cassidy up there with Tim, and they take the point completely. Very hard for GeForce to roll into that, as you saw Infected try to do time and time again.
Yeah, well, Pummy ready with the EMP. There's a big one that's for the Pulse Bomb comes out first. Ultimate Weapon gets an equalizer. That's 2 Pulse Bombs and 2 supports offline. Ultimate Weapon ultimately punished by the Cassidy of Tim. He's able to find one here. Big power drive in, but right into the waiting Flashbang, and Infected just gets melted here. Did find one here, but so far Bearclaw have not been taken off the point here. They've still got a lot of presence here, and anyhow is down. Tim on a tear as the time ticks up at the time bank for Bearclaw.
It felt like it was the Zero show last time, but you saw Tim come online more and more as that semifinal came through. And here, just on this Cassidy, controlling the high ground, controlling the low ground, controlling everyone. The flashbang, the headshots, they are landing. That Deadeye is ready, locked and loaded, but Infected also has those mines. Bearclaw, they take the high ground, so they could be much more vulnerable to this Wrecking Ball, depending on how they decide to play this.
Frag there, Madero finds Zira, and GeForce just sneak the point out from under Bearclaw, who get caught in the middle of their rotation and are now on a rear guard action as they look to rotate away from the point. It's going to be the Immortality build from Pink that keeps Bearclaw alive as they make that rotation. They will have ultimates here to retake, but for now, GeForce successfully yoink it out from under.
And I got the idea of not wanting to fight that when you lose one early, but you should at least play the point, get some weight percentage. They could have been at 90 plus by now. Now, even if they win this out, there's still a chance for GeForce to regroup and get one final fight.
Self-destruct to start things off will force GeForce off the high ground over what high ground control they had. There's the flux coming through. Looks like there's a couple in it, but the Immortality field comes down at the last second, and Pink keeps the team alive, and Ultimate Web goes down. Tim with a boosted high noon can't make anything happen there on the Cassidy. GeForce still in charge, and Madero comes in now with the Transcendence, keeps them alive through the mounting pressure from Bearclaw. Zero the run through, and Tim with a kill. Puts Pummy in his place and sends them back to spawn. Magic may fall down now as well. Bearclaw looking in a great position to get the recap, and Zero is on the hunt, deals with Infected. Web's able to find one here. gets most of the way to the ultimate before being punished. They're looking to get close to level here before the point slips, but this is last fight territory.
It is. Anyhow, if they had been able to get out of that or fall sooner, that would have been huge for GeForce because they're pretty close in percentage now. As we talked about before, though, Bearclaw, they cannot close it out there because they didn't play the point when they lost it. So it's really down to this last fight. If GeForce wins this, they should still have to contest at least one more time, but Bearclaw wins this. This will be the point going their way and the first point here on Oasis.
It was honestly great aim there from Pummy, but it's so telegraphed, that ultimate, that Bearclaw are just able to step aside. An unfortunate counter, that ultimate taking a step left. Infected down to 0 is not a great start here for GeForce. Ultimate Weapon needs to make something big happen here with the Cube Play. Picks up the Orisa, but the shielding in place from Astrodex means that it's difficult for Ultimate Weapon to get that ult up quickly. Zero can't quite find the better kill there, and Pummy's able to find one, but it's Tim and Zero finding the picks here. Anyhow, may have found one and taken Pink out of the fight, but it's not enough. Bearclaw still have numbers in their favor. Madero, even with the Transcenders here, zooms across the map to bring the tanks back into contestation, and somehow GeForce claw this back. Bearclaw get one more bite at this. They need to win one more to win this sub-map.
Clawing it out against Bearclaw. Well, there's not much better wording that you can use than that. They did it somehow, some way. I think Ultimate Weapon with the Orisa duplicate was able just to stay alive as a frontline tank, which they really haven't had at all. Infected is running around. Anyhow's had to be that frontline, but it's not as easy as a Sigma. Once you use your grasp and your shield, you're just kind of a sitting duck or a floating duck at that. Now it's all down to the ultimates. Bearclaw, they have the supercharger. GeForce, they have the mines. Who's going to win out here?
Supercharger allows Bearclaw to take the high ground. Infected has to get out of dodge. Retreats to the waiting health bag. Still has the minefield here. As we hit 99 to 99, Bearclaw needs to drop down in contest, and that's going to fall to clear. And Infected gets the minefields more or less on the point, but dies as a result of it. Pummy and Anyhow able to find 2 here. No ultimates left to play with the GeForce. They've got to dodge, and that self-destruct goes a little wide there, but Graham finds Anyhow, and this is where things start to get a little more dicey for GeForce. They've lost a lot of their staying power, and Bearclaw are large and in charge on the point. They've not secured the flip yet, but they've got a lot of point presence. Pummy back now on the Tracer, has the Force 1 ready to go, no longer has the Rico, lands the stick, deflects the Diva, and Pummy's able to find clear. Tim looking for something magical here with this high noon from the Cassidy, but Madero with ice in their veins just walks the Transcendence and stops that coming through. GeForce sneak it out from under Bearclaw.
And you can look at that map and say, this is the grand finals. 100 to 99. Bearclaw had it in their grasp and they let it slip away. It seems like GeForce, the longer that round went, the more they were getting in sync. Magic Maple goes to the Mercy just to get the res on the point. Everything comes together at the last moment. And Bearclaw, they're probably scratching their heads a little bit, but it's only one round. There's still plenty of time here in Oasis to bring it back. It looks like they're going to be going a bit of that shadow dive composition. You basically run dive tanks, but it's more of a brawl, honestly. You just run it down with the Moira. You hope for the Sombra to get a really nice hack, probably onto the Wrecking Ball or to the Tracer, and then Focus Fire them down. There's a lot of great sustain here, but GeForce, they're still going to thrive in the chaos.
Composition pioneered by Our Zero back in the day, a couple of seasons ago in Contenders NA. What a responsibility here for Zero to find this opening pack. Gets that off, and Infamous Power Driver in over the top, and Madero is in a lot of trouble. It's down to Tim to close the distance and take out Madero. That's the 5v6, and Bearclaw now with a huge advantage. Magic Mateball down. This is almost certainly the clip here for Bearclaw, the flip for Bearclaw even. Infected down, and Infected has been punished so hard this entire map.
Yeah, it feels like Infected has a bone to axe, or I don't remember the exact saying, but it seems like no matter what they try to do, they are always the focus, which makes its axe to grind. Thank you to our producer Cheeks for correcting me there. And especially when you're going up against Zero on the Sombra, like that's always going to be priority number one after you get the Zen, because once Zen is just like basically sitting there and is so squishy, you can go immediately on them. It's only one fight.
Astronex with a dive in, but dives into a world of stuns, and a lot of damage comes their way, but ultimately we see players come through and keep them alive through that. It allows them to get the full online, and Magic Maple and Madero make the decision to play in traffic. They just cost GeForce that push. Pressure there from Astronex sends them out into the road, and that's it. Bearclaw with the hold.
They got pushed into that. That's so unfortunate. I thought Infected, the previous fight, was trying to run into the cars on purpose and then just tried to get out. Couldn't. they just got pushed in by the Coalescence, by all the bodies in their way right into the street. Once you hit those cars, it is instant death. Anyhow, also, it's staggered out quite a bit. So G-Force in a whole world of hurt, and they've got to deal with Pummy's EMP. Madero does not have that transcendence just yet, only a few ticks away.
There it is, out it comes. That's going to be 3, 1 tank, 1 support, and Tim in trouble. Graham didn't have that ultimate online, so that's not going to be denied them just yet. But the EMP doesn't result in a whole much. It's the D-Mech onto clear that's come through. Madero holds it and brings out that transcendence at the last second. Keeps G-Force alive through this, so neither EMP proving particularly valuable here, but infected again into the traffic. Not entirely sure what is going on here for G-Force, but it has been a rough round here for them, and Bearclaw looking to close this out 100-0.
Well, as in self-destruct, Death Blossom, so much to work with here in this last fight. Gotta be careful if you're the Reaper. Coalescence, I think, is forced out because they fell so low, but that's also going to force the fight off the point.
Self-destruct, no bubble available, but lots of fade and mobility available for Bearclaw. Gets them out of the way of the self-destruct from anyhow. Primal Rage deals with Magic Maple. Tim pushes their way forward, secures the D-Mech onto anyhow, and we're back to get the Baby Diva just for the heck of it. Probably down here, and Bearclaw almost certainly taking this 100-0 here.
2 very different rounds. The contests, they keep coming through, but I don't think there's enough to keep them alive. The hack onto Infected, that's going to be happening all day, every day. They do lose their Winston, but it doesn't matter. Astronex just says, see ya, I'll take the round. We'll even things up. And 2 very different circumstances. One, 100-99, another 100-0. Now it all comes down to University. The best point for Brawl here, and I don't think either of these teams are going to be looking for that Reinhardt anytime soon of how they've played this out.
This smacks to me, Jag, of Bearclaw having looked at G-Force and gone, well, we saw what happened in their previous map. We know that Infected was a big linchpin in how that was working, and it was a wrecking ball diff in a lot of cases in their previous round. So let's shut down Infected, and it seems because Infected was bullied in that last round.
It looks like no Reinhardt as we expected, and Bearclaw says, hey, if it worked last time, let's just run the exact same thing. Shadow Dive again going to come out. Again, Zira can have a lot of responsibility to get those hacks early on so that the rest of the team can focus someone down. And I mean, the way they were getting the backline every time, like, it was just picture perfect.
Ultimate Weapon needs to keep this up. That's a very quick ult generation so far. And Pummy with the pointy end of the arrow deals with Tim and Astro next. This has been a great adaptation for G-Force. Pummy with the 3K opens things up beautifully here, and that's going to give G-Force the opening cap of the defensive posture.
You got to think about those changes we talked about to his arrow, his alternate fire. Now it bounces off surfaces. So what does that mean for a map like this? There's a lot of walls it could bounce off of. I mean, look at this, especially how close quarters it is. This is a great pick and could be honestly something that most teams will look at going forward. Helps them get the first cap here on Oasis. This is the first time they've gotten it in 3 points.
Yeah, already looking a lot better for G-Force. Bearclaw struggling, I think, with ultimate charging, but that is a great hack. And Ultimate Web ultimately gets focused down by Zero here. So nice opening now for Bearclaw, and a lot of pressure going on to Plummy, and that is all the punching power of G-Force taken off the table. Tim forced to recall by the bash from Magic Maple, but Bearclaw now have the numbers advantage. They forced G-Force off the point, but Infected and Madero between them may keep this alive. Between the Transcendence of the Minefield, things are difficult now for Bearclaw. Ultimate Web and Pummy should both be back in the fight, and I think we get the Dragon across the point here from Pummy, a little bit wide. Bearclaw pressured, but not particularly phased by that. And they push back in with an aggressive beat from Graham and a self-destruct from Clear. Astronex now forced into use the Primal Rage right into the EMP from Zero as well. That's going to hit 3 from G-Force. They've kept us alive for a long while here, but G-Force now looking a little battered and bruised, having lost Ultimate Web yet again. Pummy's able to find one anyhow down, but Magic Maple equalizes that nicely with Astronex off the table. Pummy back in the middle of the point, playing at medium range, where the Hanzo really excels with these new bouncy arrows. They keep us alive, they keep themselves in charge of the point. Ultimate Web is back, and Infected makes a bunch of space. G-Force take us into Last Fight City.
It is Last Fight City destination. One of these teams is going to win out this map. And I think Ultimate honestly owes a thank you to Zira. They couldn't use the duplicate because they were EMP'd, but the team was able to hold out. Now they have it for this last fight. That's going to be a huge ultimate that they can use here to help take this away.
might be forced into using that just to survive here, but no, ultimately survives through that one, brings it back in and picks up the kill here. Always a controversial pick here, not always easy to get that ultimate online in time. There it is, self-destruct in the offing and ready to go. There's the first one, the natural one from Anyhow, deals with 0. Here's the second one, nobody going to be found with that one, but Magic Mate Ball finds clear in the midst of the D-Meg. Anyhow's able to find Astro next, and this is looking great for GeForce. They say, you can 100-0, we can 100-0 just as strongly, and GeForce put the first point on the board for the series.
That is the best way to put it. They can do it just as well. And again, it was 199 on this first point. The next to 100-0 going both ways. I think they're Bear Claw. They just said, hey, this comp worked last time. Let's do it again. But this map is so different than the other one. I mean, you go to City Center, it is so spread out. It is so all over the place. There's so many ways you can utilize it better. Here, it's all close quarters, and that's where you get the advantage of having the Echo with her sticky bombs or with her focusing beam. You can melt someone down. Hanzo, storm arrows just are ricocheting off of everything these days, and then, I mean, the Wrecking Ball can just run through. Even though the Winston has a Tesla cannon, can do a lot of AoE damage in a small space, everyone is just going to avoid you at that rate. So, Bear Claw, try to run the same thing, don't make any adjustments, and unfortunately don't have the same result here. They're going to fall down 0-1 in the series. The good news for them, though, it is a 1st-3, not a 1st-2, so there's still a lot of Overwatch here to be played.
Yeah, this is not match point just yet. We do have an assault map in the offing for the first time this weekend, so this is typically a kind of a mixed bag assault, right? Because a lot of the community dislike it because it can feel either very snowbally or impossible to cap that point B, but it's where we see the most coordinated highest level of Overwatch typically. So if you want a measure for how good these two teams are relative to one another, this is the map type for it. Control has been good. It said, well, it's not been 200-0. Both teams got a lot of work done in that one. But now let's move over to the real meat grinder of Overwatch and see how things shake out.
And I think the way you said that was very astute, because Control is kind of just two people like running at each other the entire time, right? Strategy sometimes is not the key. Sometimes you're just trying to go a little bit faster, catch someone off guard. Here, it is all about being tactical, all about calculating moves, your rotations, your ult usage, where you end up, line of sight, all those things that play a big part. So we're going to have to see what map it is, and I believe we do know what it is as we do go to that map selection screen.
Anubis, that's right.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be an intriguing one, because that first point can be pretty difficult to break with the high ground kind of before that first choke point. But if anyone can do it, it's a Wrecking Ball just running through you and knocking a bunch of people off that high ground.
You know, Jag, I was looking at this and thinking, oh, that's cute. Someone's just doodled a little Hammond with a spacesuit over the top of Oasis, forgetting, of course, that there is, in fact, the logo for GeForce, indicating that they won that one. But regardless, still a nice addition to our map screen. This is, of course, Bear Claw's pick for Temple of Anubis, right? So they're looking at this, and I think now, having played one round against GeForce, now have a better understanding of what they need to do to shut down, and which is typically hack infected, stun infected, get infected out of the fight here. Is Temple of Anubis a map where they can really play in that style?
I mean, I'm expecting double shield. I'm expecting a full counter dive here. I still want to see more Torbjorn. The only time we've really seen it is Ultimate Web putting it out on Busan, which I feel like was a bit of a meme pick. But here, there's a lot of great turret spots, especially like behind where the Wrecking Ball dives in. You do a lot of damage from there. Then the other team, GeForce, will have to focus that out before really focusing on getting onto the high ground. So my guess is there's something up their sleeve. One strategy that I would love to see, which I don't feel like is played at the highest level as much, is the Symmetra teleporter. There's two ways to do it. You can either do it right underneath the bridge and just go straight to the point, or you can go all the way around the high ground and then get to the point. Just avoid that choke point altogether and just force the defenders to come to you. It works out pretty well if you can catch them off guard, but if it doesn't work the first time, it's never going to work the second time.
No, I feel like, I think it used to be called the treehouse combo, the treehouse defense, where you played sort of a little further back and you sort of bounce between those 2 points. I feel like that's not a thing that we've seen since Rollock really came into being. I'm thinking maybe year 2, year 3 of Overwatch League is where we really saw that come into play, and it's not had a lot of traction since. Of course, we know these to be two very flexible teams that maybe are happy running things that are a little bit wonky. So entirely possible that we could see that, but I do feel like it's been a long time since we've properly seen that backyard treehouse defense.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's more just like I love to see it on attack, but the defense is definitely a way to do it to kind of counter that. But I agree, it's unlikely. It's more like me crossing my fingers, hoping that I can speak it into reality.
It would be nice. Yeah,
it would be nice. I mean, I'm expecting double shield for the defense. I'm expecting G-Force to basically continue to run what they've been running because we know they are flexible. But it seems like it's like, hey, we had this one comp. We'll make minor variations to it over time, depending on what we need. But overall, it's the same structure that they've been successfully running. And I think you made a great point that Bear Claw, they do know what they need to do to win. They just couldn't do it on that last point of Oasis. And I think it's because of the comp they ran overall. That Shadow Dive, very effective some places, not so effective others.
Okay, well, let's have a look. Temple of Anubis in the offing. Here we are, point A, and it's all of its somewhat derelict glory. Starting with Bear Claw on the defense. It's not the double shield, but we do have the Torbjorn here for Bear Claw.
And my guess for this is that they want the D.Va... Because, I mean, the double shield, honestly, when knowing what G-Force is probably going to run, you don't have to worry as much about, Infected's upfront damage. It's more about flanking damage anyway. So D.Va, she can go around it for booster. She has a better matrix. Her absorption of damage ability is much better than the Sigma Grasp. Much lower cooldown. She can kind of just be the, I am, everywhere at once. So I think that's kind of why they have her there. You see, the Torbjorn, the Brigitte, the Cassidy, all very anti-dive. So just a slight variation of what I was expecting, but this is still we're going to try to shut down this Wrecking Ball. No Sombra, though, so they cannot hack Infected at all.
No. And that's where you see the benefit of Clear here as well, is free Sombra checking if they know that's in the offing, but immediately decide that having scouted that they don't want to run the Sombra here. Instead, it's back to what we saw from them in that previous round with Ultimate Weapon probably on the hands on.
And Magic Maypal's been on this Mercy now for a while. I'm wondering if that's going to be for a pocket for Ultimate Web or what the plan is there, because it seems like for the most part Ultimate Web's honestly been on their own, but you do see they are trying to get that extra damage in, but neither team ain't finding anyone yet.
Ooh, Ultimate Web for the first casualty here, Zebra down to the focusing beam. Haven't seen the turret in the kill feed, so the turret is still open, causing damage, and Tim punches back here, taking Magic Maple out of the fight, but respawns to favor the offense on point A, so Magic Maple will be back fairly soon. Ultimate Web forced out of that position. Maybe has to go back and pick up Magic Maple rather than get back into the fight. Pink is down to Pummy here, so G-Force definitely with the momentum in their favor here as they start to generate additional picks here. There's Astronex down, and this is looking great on a 1-push-1 cap run for G-Force.
And I don't know if the turret wasn't originally destroyed, right? It was at the back of the point the entire time, so I gotta wonder about that positioning. I guess the idea is they thought they would just all reconvene on the point anyway, but having it up front would have been a great way to stop Ultimate Web and Magic Maypal from getting in. Same for Infected. Instead, kind of were able to run through once they broke through that initial choke, once they backed the Orisa into that corner. And this could be the snowball effect. They have two ultimates, almost everything online. This could be an entire ult apocalypse.
It could, and Bear Claw, of course, only have the amplification matrix and, of course, the High Noon from the Cassidy of Tim. And both of those are great for slowing things down here and stopping the push coming through. But G-Force take the initiative. The Dragon's out first from Pummy. In comes the High Noon from Tim. Has to pull the pin on that one. Doesn't find any kills. And now the Flux is in as well. Zero down to the Recon Arrow from Pummy. Ultimate Weapon by Astronex. And this is looking like a rout here. G-Force pushing on through. There's the melee from anyhow. The pulse comes from Ultimate Weapon on the duplicate. And the Stickies come back in. 2-6 gain. Looking for a third. Pummy's able to find Graham here. And this has been a rout. This has been an absolute wash here. G-Force fully in control of this. We still have Astronex back in on the right half, but there's only so much you can do when everybody from G-Force is staring you down. Here comes the amplification matrix. Power driver from Infected is the one that does the heavy lifting here, but I may have called this too soon, Jack. Graham and Pink, the support line of here, I keep this alive for Bear Claw. They're finding picks. The utility is real. The performance is phenomenal. And Bear Claw mount the defense less than 3% away from the cap.
It seems so close there. Magic Maypal, though, goes a bit too close to the sun. It's not taken into the charge, but goes immediately where that Reinhardt ends up being. And then Bear Claw able to take that healer offline. That is most of the healing. Zen does not put out a lot of healing, honestly, even though the single healing targets for both. Magic Maypal, after that's in a swap to the bricks. There's no second chance, no resurrection. There will be more crowd control as, there's no res hit. That would have been huge. Ultimate Web gets stuck by the pulse bomb, and I'm surprised G-Force, they're still trying to engage here.
I think maybe they're just looking to try and generate. At this point, they've only got puppies online. They would maybe like a little more in the support department. I think they don't mind throwing a bit of damage at this point.
Yeah, they able to get their healers a little bit more ult charge. They do give them a little bit of ult charge. That's not too bad. Oh, the dragon's eaten.
That's a hard one to eat as well. Maybe should have held that one on a little while longer here. The G-Force now don't have anything directly online. They do just now get the Flux online, and it is immediately out. Pink is down. That's a lot of damage onto Astronex here as well. Looking for that bit of follow-up, and it's Madero in. Swings into action with the Transcendence, keeps the rest of G-Force alive as they start to make the rotation onto the point here. G-Force have the numbers now. They have the presence on point with Zero deals with Madero. They've now only got Magic Mate Ball for keeping themselves alive, and they're trying to do this into the sound barrier from Graham as well. It's going to be very difficult, I think, for G-Force. You just want to back out. Ultimate Web with the pause there, waiting for Bear Claw's Zero to get into their line of fire, but ultimately it's Zero that wins out of that one. Pulse Bomb out. There's the double from Zero, and the hold comes through from Bear Claw.
I think right now, Bear Claw, they have gone back to a similar idea to Shadow Dive. No Somber this time. Instead, gonna just put up the Reaper, which does a lot more damage, especially to Infected. But the Moira Orb has been coming in so clutch in every fight. The healing output is just so much greater from Pink than it is from either Madeira or Magic Mayball, unless they get the Transcendence online. And I think that's a big part of why they've been able to hold on to this for now.
Tim forced out of position there, despite almost having that Death Poison, which is now online. Not a lot there that can interrupt that. It's going to be on anyhow to do something there with the defense matrix to take that ultimate offline as much as possible. But it's Pink with Coalescence that takes Golden Web out of the fight first, having committed that Pulse Bomb. And that's going to be Bear Claw holding on yet again here.
Yeah, really only use the Coalescence here. Have three of their ultimates still at their disposal. G-Force, I think they're waiting on Pummy to build up this EMP. That's really their only engagement tool right now, except for the Mines. And Infected going really deep, but not really going in for anything. Now Mine's going to be thrown out.
Yeah, so Acrobatics there Infected, but nobody really on point at the minute. Those Mines not doing a lot, just gathering dust on the point for now. Wondered if that was going to initiate a swap here, but in fact it's still on the Wrecking Ball. And there is the it's probably taken so long that Madero was actually able to build that ultimate in time to counteract that. And we get the Sound Barrier online, the push out from Zero here. There's the EMP, hits 4, and Astronex is down. Pink is down. Ultimate Web forced to use the recall. Finds 2 here. Looking for a little more traction on the point. It's going to be 1. In fact, that's a 2-for-1 trade on self-destructs with clear dealing with Magic Maple. Madero down as well. There's no sustain on the point anymore for G-Force. And Ultimate Web squashed in the final minute here for G-Force on their push.
And the EMP for Pummy was good because it was after Graham had used the Sound Barrier to try to answer to the Transcendence. But I don't think they really... I think they hit like 2 or 3 people. There is still quite a bit of that Sound Barrier for the side of Bearclaw, which helped them sustain. And then again, Astro goes to the last second swap for the Reinhardt. This time is able to charge out Ultimate. And I heard that charge coming and I was thinking, oh my god, Ultimate has no idea, do they? They get flattened like a bug, and now this is their last chance to get that full cap here on point B.
Yeah, Ultimate Web not committing that ultimate onto the Moira when they weren't sure whether or not the Fade was still in the offing, but it finds nothing and Tim takes them out of the fight here. We've got 12 seconds left to go, and Pink surges forward one more time with the Coalescence, but they can't fade their way out of the Mines. Luckily, the speed they do have allows them to back out of the way of the immediate damage from it. 1-for-1 with a heavily favored trade here. Astronex back in the fight very quickly. We are now into overtime as Infected falls to Tim. It's now down to finding something doing here for G-Force with the ultimates. They've only got this Transcendence online. It allows them to keep themselves in this fight a little bit longer and keep it contested, but they're struggling to find the numbers advantage here. Anyhow, with the self-destruct online, Infected finds Pink. That means no support slipper on the table here for Bearclaw. G-Force keeping the pressure on, not putting the burn on that ultimate just yet. Anyhow, eventually pulls that out. No kills off the self-destruct, but able to find clear in the midst of the remake. Anyhow, still holds on to their self-destruct. Infected finds Tim, and is this finally it for G-Force? Have they finally got the numbers and the momentum in their favor? It's taken them almost all of their time back, but there is the cap deep into the bowels of overtime, Jag.
Better late than never. It's gonna be painful if they get full capped and they don't have any time left, because it means they can only draw, but at least they're in a scenario where they can draw after a very delayed take. Bearclaw's defense was incredible, and I think the key moment there is that Pummy got the hack onto the Lucio as they are mid sound barrier. There is a cast time, and one mistake that I've always made as a Lucio player is, I don't know what it is instinctually, but I always want to press spacebar as I go for that. Like, I just want to have the biggest jump, and that delays you actually hitting your ultimate. You have to touch the ground with it. And there, they just never were able to touch it. They're never able to get the beat off. That beat drop will be lost the echoes of time.
You hear that,
Time is
devs? Make
Yeah, you hear
sound
that?
barriers scale with drop heights.
Ooh.
I
That's
think
actually
we
a
can
cool
all agree
idea.
That's the change we need. I'm sure I've
Yeah.
seen that. I'm sure I've seen somebody mock that up in workshop.
You know, we should talk to Flash Ops about that. Make it happen, Blizzard, please. One day for experimental, hopefully.
One day.
But Bearclaw, honestly, like, despite the fact that they get full cap, they're in a great position right now. Because if they finish with a minute or more, like, they can just win outright. That's all they need to make this an even series and at least force a map 4.
Indeed. G-Force on the defense. Pretty much no changes here. I think they had a little more luck with the sort of slightly more pokey style that they're running here with the Tracer and the Sombra. Bearclaw are just going back into this variant on what you've been calling the Shadow Dive, running 0 on the Tracer without the EMP capacity here. Let's see how this works out for them. Infected, crash behind, looking to get a big run through. Actually misses everybody here, but might get a power driver on the back end. No, just straight back into... No, there's the power driver, slightly delayed. Forces out some utility here from Bearclaw, but they make the rotation without losing a member. In fact, it's Ultima Weapon that was really the biggest recipient of damage in that one. G-Force look and rotate away from the rotation from Bearclaw and just hold their ground for now.
And it's going to let them rotate all the way up to the high ground, which is, I think, what they want to take. But did they actually go back to kind of the choke point and just run in?
Make this rotation Bearclaw to try and match G-Force here. 1-for-1 trade. There's the put on to clear, and we get a very early mind healed here from Infected. Anyhow, also gets the self-destruct out, but doesn't find anything with that one. Very trady so far here, but Infected has been the one that's made the difference here, finding a couple of kills at the back end of that one. A lot of damage there onto Astronex as well. Luckily, Pink is there to start regenerating that next Coalescence.
Yeah, Pink used it early, and I thought that might be what finished things off, but somehow, someway, G-Force they hold. Pummy gonna have that EMP.
Me takes the high ground again. No, actually not opting for that just yet. That's currently just to get out of jail free card, but that did get destroyed, and Hummy goes down. I think actually pulled the pin on the EMP, but died before the animation could complete, and Bearclaw surge forward. That's 3 kills and counting now for Bearclaw on the offense. G-Force, they might get a touch here to mount a little bit of a hold, but it's not going to be held for long here.
No, it is not. Let's break down what just happened. Pummy setting up for the EMP. Translocator gets destroyed. That cooldown is too late for them to really do anything there. They immediately get run up on, and like you said, they die in the middle of their animation. So another ultimate that has a very, not long in terms of seconds, but in this game, it takes years to cast. And now, we talked about the snowball effect. Bearclaw, they're going to be running in with everything besides a pulse bomb here.
Okay, well, it's going to be down to Madero, I think, to find some sort of hero play with all the damage that's about to come their way. There's only so much Transcendence can do, particularly when you're staring down the barrel of a focused Coalescence, and we've got the Death Blossom coming in from Tim as well. The mines help a little bit, but it only slows the roll for Bearclaw. Tim still holds on to this one, and now that Transcendence is no longer in the offing. Tim and Zero both have uncontested damage. There's the stick. Magic Mayfall is down. In comes the Death Blossom. A bit absorbed there by Anyhow. Forced into using that self-destruct just to get the mech back. Ultimate Weapon getting back on the point here. Bearclaw getting that first stick almost on board, but G-Force able to just tag back on and keep this going. 1-for-1 as Astronex and Infected both go down. There's the stick from Ultimate Weapon, and Priam is down here. Pink still in the offing as the D-Mech comes through onto clear. G-Force, by the skin of their teeth, hold on to that first tick.
Used everything there and get nothing out of it. There's a lot that can be said for G-Force not getting the full cap until time was expired, but they got 97.1% of that from that first engagement on point B. 6 ultimates down the drain, nothing to show for it after. They had to get at least 33% for it to be permanent, and then 66.6, and next one is the full cap. So very unfortunate for them. Now G-Force, they can start to build up their own ultimates back again. Transcendence not too far behind, and already have the mind to stop an attempted push.
Okay, Tim nearly with another Death Blossom. And their beck and call. Bearclaw slowly getting the way back up to an engage-worthy battery of ultimates, and Pink's just going to pull the pin on that one straight away. A lot of focus, buys a lot of space, stops G-Force from getting immediately back onto the point, but Ultimate Weapon, the minefield between the two of them, make it impossible for Pink to get out of the way. They get focused down, and Madero, yes, is receiving a lot of pressure, but more than equal to the task here. Ice in their veins, and they hold on here. Still nothing gained for Bearclaw.
The mine placement for Infected, it was perfect. We saw it in the POV. Pink has the Coalescence, and you think that might be enough for them to win the fight, but they get blown up by one mine, and they get booped immediately into another because of it. The mine placement was tactical. It was perfect, and G-Force needs to hold on to that. And that pulse bomb, I guess it stuck. That was a weird kind of interaction, but nothing found.
That was a real yeet moment there from Zero. Ultimately, a bit of a whiff on that one. Coming on the high ground, 4%, 6% away even from having that ultimate online. That's going to be a good defensive tool. Bearclaw still have ultimates out there, beck and call. And we're looking at the interaction here between Sound Barrier and EMP in this next one.
Absolutely, you can't use the Sound Barrier until the EMP, and this would be the time, and it's landed perfectly.
Yeah, great there from Graham. Knew that EMP was online, was out of range of that, brings it back and keeps Bearclaw alive. But what that has done is momentarily slow Bearclaw, and now they've got to deal with the minefield from Infected. Hear Tim popping that off in the background, but that is all defense matrix out. Not today, says D, but that's a die of the day for Tim. Astronex down, G-Force on the defense. Call them the defense.
One good thing, though, for Bearclaw is they do force up the Transcendence. I think that was a bit of a, I hear the sound cue, so I'm just going to go for it, try to save my team, but it wasn't needed because Tim got pretty melted down. Still, though, self-destruct available. Not too far from a Pulse Bomb either. Bearclaw, they're going to have both their Tank Ultimates, Coalescence, and Pulse Bomb. So ult economy-wise, they're looking a little bit better, but time is starting to wind down. They had more than 5 minutes going into this, only a minute 20 because of how far that attacker spawn is for the second point. This is realistically 2, maybe 3 fights at best left for them.
And I actually really like this ballsy play from me. Actually not afraid to go towards enemy spawn just to find somebody to try and farm this EMP off of. 80%, having used that not that long ago, is a great position to be in. But now it's ultimate time from Bearclaw. Self-destruct and Primal Rage here. So far, no kills. We also get the Coalescence. And oh no, I thought Pink had waited that one out, but just puts a pixel across the parapet and falls to the self-destruct. 1 tick on the board now for Bearclaw. We're going to get that second, but Infected is back. Almost has another minefield online here, and I think here for Bearclaw, you've got to back out and give yourself one more go at this one. Tim down. This is last fight territory for Bearclaw, and they've got to make this final fight a biggie.
Good news is they did at least get 1 tick, so the time to cap now, to capture the point fully and force extra rounds is not nearly as much as it would have been otherwise. But they're going up against so much, they have nothing to work for. Sound Barrier has to somehow be farmed. This EMP from Pummy is ready to go, and there it is.
He's only going to find 2, though. Zero, a bit of a sitting target, but nobody there to follow up. But in the melee, in the Maelstrom, in the confusion, Astronex and Tim are both down at the 6-second marker. And yes, we had Graham on the point trying to keep us alive. We had Zero trying to keep this going, but it's just not going to happen for Bearclaw, short of a miracle. Overtime, ticking down, Pink falling down. And this is it. Where are Bearclaw? Nowhere to be seen. And now it's match point. G-Force mount a heck of a defense and take us to potentially the final map in the tournament.
Snowball effect. It didn't happen for either team. G-Force, they got the better of it. Were able to get a lot more of that point percentage early on, which means their last fight, it wasn't as desperate. They could just kind of win it out, force people off the point, and get that last pick. Wouldn't even need it. If they had not fully capped, they still would have won this out with their defense. Only 1 tick was captured at the end of all things for Bearclaw, despite having, I would say, even in a more impressive attack. I think they had a little bit less time after that first point, but the way they rotated on to the point, onto their enemies, they did a very good job. It looked very decisive, but that second point has such a long, I would say, walkway, it's a long alleyway, I guess is the way to say it. No matter if you go left, right, or center, there is a lot of time that's going to take you to actually get onto the objective. And because of that, it didn't seem like they could ever really get a good footing there and get that second capture underway.
Well, just 2 CP things, am I right? Well, potentially one more map, or definitely one more map in the series, maybe some more after that. And whilst we get that lined up, we've got to throw it to a little bit of a break so that our teams can flex their wrists and work out some of the kinks in the system. We're back with the remainder of the grand finals in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back, friends and enemies, to what could be the final match of today's Latency Cash Cup. BiggHungryPhill and Jag still with you for this one. And we were just discussing in the break how we think this one's going to go, how this next map's going to shake out. And I think even though we are 2-0 up in the series, I still wouldn't want to call this. I still don't think that the Bear Claw are out of this. Like, they've been fighting this entire time and fighting really well, Jag.
Yeah, it's absolutely been a battle back and forth. And although we have seen GeForce get the upper hand, get the victories, Bear Claw is far from out of any of the maps they've lost. They're far from out of this series. They had another chance to shine here, and they get another map pick. So we were talking about it, and we thought it'd be Kings Row just because everyone loves Kings Row.
Because why wouldn't you pick Kings Row? Yeah.
And they've shown that they can play Reinhardt very proficiently. However, it's actually going to be Numbani as the possible final map choice here, which is very intriguing to me. Because I actually don't think Wrecking Ball plays very well on Numbani. I would say if you're going to play a dive tank, Winston's probably the go-to. I'm not saying it's not going to work, because in fact it's a very talented player, but this Wrecking Ball and Numbani, they do not equate in my head.
No, not a particularly classic pairing, but if you're looking at what Bear Claw have been running, particularly the Shadow Dive and the variants with the Sombra as a key component of that does play particularly well on point A here. Like, that point A sort of cauldron that you have around the point, very, very useful for that kind of composition.
Especially if you can get boops off the high ground. I mean, there's a lot of high ground here. There's a lot of potential environmental eliminations where you can just fall off the map because of the way it's designed. I could definitely see someone just rolling on through and getting 2 or 3 people off the map just like that.
Yeah, easily. It's a map that is weird pacing-wise, because point B, the streets phase of this map, is almost non-existent a lot of the time, right? If you lose A, streets for Numbani is so short that you often don't get a good point B defense. So you've got to be pretty confident on your point A defense here if you're Bear Claw, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, point B feels like it doesn't exist most of the time, and it's not impossible to hold there, but if you're going to hold, it's either right at the beginning, like right after the card unlocks, or it's going to be right at the end. Like, the actual part of it that is made up of streets, very little real time to set up. Defenders, there's a lot of high ground for them, but attackers have a lot of easy accessibility to try to make it up there, especially if you run a Winston. So yeah, it's really going to be the point A and C show. If I saw a point B hold, I would actually be pretty amazed, which is, again, not impossible, but unlikely. And Bear Claw going to be running the Winston. Seems like that is what Astronex has been preferring. Again, on attacks, it could swap. And GeForce actually might be seeing Infected play the Winston for the first time. This is a swap that, again, I said, like, Winston better than Wrecking Ball here, but this is not what I was expecting.
No, not at all. I kind of expected, in fact, to just brute force the Wrecking Ball, because have you ever met Wrecking Ball players? That's just what they do, yeah. A very interesting wrinkle. Let's see how Bear Claw play into this.
Again, his first point going to be make or break. GeForce on their defense, so we'll have to see how they set up, and already Pummy's in the back line. Doesn't get zoned out. If they got a hack there, that could have really stalled out for a little bit, but instead just going to have to translocate back to safety.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't see the hack. It was not even an attempt made. It was just literally spraying some damage. Great response there from Clear. Stops them from finding too much. In comes Astronex, and straight over the top. Clear to back them up. Astronex will get hit with that anti-nade. And, oh, actually, we didn't spot this. Zero coming in on the Echo now. So we've no longer got the mirror. A lot of potential damage here coming in from Zero, particularly with the stickies and the focusing beam. Good chase there. Focuses anyhow, gets them to relocate to the left-hand side. Nobody really getting the upper hand just yet.
And another thing is, there's honors on both sides. We haven't really seen it all this series. A lot of long-range healing, and the Nano. Nano onto Winston. This is like peanut butter and jelly. You can just slice and dice people. How much damage the Tesla cannon puts out. Ooh.
Wasn't quite able to build up Primal Rage there, and actually a lot of that was down to Grey with a great whip shot. Forced Infected back a little ways, and now it's Astronex. It's time to shine, isn't it? A much more impactful dive. Astronex with 3. Great choice, great positioning, great patience here from Bear Claw as they cap point A.
You saw their Pummy felt really, really low, so immediately the Sombra is out of the engagement, out of the equation. Pink hits a very nice nano onto Astronex, who's able to just kind of run their way in. Infected had to run into the Brigitte and the Shield Bash. It didn't seem like we saw that on the other side from GeForce, just kind of walked all the way in, just was able to get easy elims, and now that card is going to get him moving.
Oh okay early with the duplicate, but anyhow, it's a bit behind Astronex, so that's only 3 Winstons on the field, or only 2 Winstons on the field rather than 3 at this point. And Zero coming in with arms flailing here, struggling to find kills, but buys a heck of a lot of space here. Bomb comes out as well. He's still holding on to the EMP, anyhow, still holding on to that self-destruct.
Oh no!
And Clear just gets knocked clear over the side on that one. Great stuff from anyhow, and this is where we were expecting these holds to manifest.
Yeah, this is what we were talking about also with the Wrecking Ball. Like, there's a lot of environmental kill opportunity, even though D.Va does have those boosters. They're on a cooldown still, so you can't use them all the time. Ultimate Whip's taken out, and Pummy's found out. They still have the EMP, though.
Okay, there's the EMP that's going to find 2 pulls in from Tim, though. Takes Pummy out of the fight, and Bearclaw come out top trumps on the back of that EMP. You would normally expect the team that pulls the pin of the EMP to be the team that wins out, but that has not been the case. Bearclaw fight back, and they're looking to get this payload moving.
They're infected. You saw it in the POV. They got very weak after the EMP hits. They had to back out. Unfortunately, Tim was right there with their open arms saying, come on, Winston, come home. And immediately sends them back to spawn. So the main tank offline, that's almost guaranteed to be a lost fight. And Bearclaw, they continue to move this cart forward, now approaching that 2nd point cap. We talked about it, like, it's either at the beginning or at the end. So this is where GeForce doesn't have to make a statement, or Bearclaw doesn't have a lot of great time going into the 3rd point here.
And this is exactly what I was worried about, right? This self-destruct, there's nothing here from GeForce that can really interfere with that. I assumed they were going to use that just to try and spawn out the point, but that's not been the case. Instead, it's anyhow that takes up that tactic, finds 1, buys the space for Video to get a 2nd kill, Ultimate Web forced into the recall, but Graham forced back towards spawn, and in a bit of trouble here. Luckily, the shield keeping them healthy, but they will be harried all the way here by Ultimate Web, and round the corner comes Infected, down the drain goes Graham, and we get a 2nd hold here on B. We never see this, Jack.
We don't, but the swaps come up from GeForce, playing more of the standard comp we've seen from them. No more Ana, no more Winston. Back to the Zen, back to the Wrecking Ball, and it seems like they have found their footing. Still a lot of ultimates for Bearclaw, especially this Nano. The Nano Winston could be the difference maker. GeForce, they're approaching a pulse bomb, and you know, if you get a good stick, that could end the fight right there.
Pulse bomb lands the stick and finds Graham. I think we also might get the DMEC as the secondary result of that. No, looks like he's able to get back up into healthy territory. Astra next, buying space, but takes a lot of damage as a result of that, down to less than 400 HP. Bearclaw is able to find Puppy just as that EMP was coming online, but for now, GeForce still have control of the car. Bearclaw back out momentarily, but they're coming back in, looking pretty healthy now. Minefield, nice big power driver, knocks up Bearclaw into that, and Puppy is sprinting back towards the point to try and get this EMP into playing. There's the self-destruct and the duplicated D.Va. Lands on the ledge and finds big fat nothing on that one. Expect the D-Mech to come through and the D-Jupe to come through even quicker. Great stuff from GeForce, even without the EMP, which they hold for the next fight.
That's a big thing to hold on to as well. I mean, the rally, it might be enough to sustain them, but it's not going to be nearly as effective as a Transcendence or as a Sound Barrier. That armor stacks up over time instead of it being instantaneous. And honestly, Phil, I'm starting to think we cast or curse ourselves here. This might be a point B hold. Only about a minute and a half on the clock. There should be 2, 3, maybe 4 more fights, depending on how things end up. But it looks like GeForce has really been able to put their foot down.
Yeah, stick from Ultimate Web doesn't quite clear of their mech, and they get healed back up and themselves in that fight. That's a little more charge, I think, on this next Ultimate for me. Now in a position to make this work. Gets found out that this is exactly what you want here from the D.Va. Makes the life that bit harder for the Sombra. Still holds on to the EMP, and the longer this goes on, the more impactful this EMP is going to be, right? Because the last thing you want is that to happen in the final few seconds of the fight where you've got nothing to counter it with. We might even see the combo coming through here. We have the self-destruct online from anyhow. They're going to have to start putting some of these EMP tools to use. That's going to be a hack come through onto Astra next, and the DMEC comes through onto anyhow, but that's not in a position where that's going to find much value. Great positioning there from Magic Mate Ball with the shield. Stops that finding anything of a self-destruct from Clear. Zero in a lot of trouble. Gets harried out away from the payload. But with the 22nd marker now in this fight. EMP out of the offing. Infected out of the offing. And it looks like Bearclaw might, in the final few seconds of this, have just enough point presence to start to push this across the line. No ultimates left remaining for GeForce, no off-tank, and this is going to be them moving it across the line in the final few seconds of the fight. And we will get a point C here for Bearclaw.
We will, but man, it took everything they had to get it done. And that Pummy hit the EMP. I don't think it hit anyone. I was looking at the top right to see who was hacked out. I think it was just a complete miss.
that hits. Very different situation. Potential just to hold right there, but instead, that's third point. Point C will be unlocked, and Bearclaw still has 4 ultimates, almost 5 of Graham in that rally to their name. This could be them just rolling through the rest of this map.
Really good. He's about to get that EMP online again, though. There's the duplicate, and it's going to be a Diva yet again here. There's the hack. This is a manual one. The EMP not put out just yet. The Zero can still use this time to generate ult charge, so expect to have a self-destruct on. In fact, there it is. In the back, it's not going to find any kills. It just finds space. Speaking of space, in comes Astro next with the monkey arm, flailing, looking for space. Instead, gets the EMP, gets bashed, gets deleted. Probably focuses them down. That's the main tank off the table now for Bearclaw, but the cards are making inexorable progress all this time. Of the self-destruct zones G-Force away to come back in with Magic 8-Ball running the rally the entire time, making them so much harder to kill. As Autumn Wet tries to land a bit of a right hook there onto Zero, who gets their way out of this one. We're at 17 seconds. This is almost certainly an OT cap for Bearclaw. Pulse bomb out, and Tim just able to make the fadeaway on that one. Doesn't take the damage. We get the Reinhardt now from Astro next, and the EMP comes through. The hack comes through even. Stops the shield from being in place to protect from the self-destruct, and this is G-Force almost certainly scrounging this one out a few meters away from a cap for Bearclaw.
Almost a C9 right there, as you saw. Tim makes their way onto the point, only a few meters left, but their hack onto the Reinhardt that Astronex had only switched onto for this fight leaves them completely vulnerable to the self-destruct. A great team play from G-Force to shut it down. It's almost a full cap. It could have been a point to hold. There's a lot of possibilities, but right now, Bearclaw, there is only one possibility here. Stop them from getting all 3 points, and you advance onward. That is the only way they can continue on in this series.
Yeah, it may as well be the full map, given how close we were to the end of point C on that one. But I honestly think the defense on point A was rough for G-Force specifically because they felt they had to have Infected on the Winston. On the offense, where I don't think there's that much pressure to be off the Wrecking Ball, I think we're looking at potentially a similar time cap here on A, unless Bearclaw really pull out all the stops and find ways again to shut down Infected.
And it felt like G-Force was playing into Bearclaw's hands. Like, they were trying to go for a mostly mirror matchup. I think the only difference was the tank, the support, or the DPS lineup. Eventually I'll get one of them, right? But the DPS were different. Everything else was the same. And I think especially having the Ana, they forced out their Nano Winston combination much earlier, got nothing out of it. And Bearclaw was like, all right, yours is done, our turn, and immediately press onto it. Especially also knowing that Pummy is kind of not as much into that engagement as the Sombra. They can take that 5v6 and win it outright. Now G-Force, time for them to see if they can have an attack just as proficient as their counterpart.
I'd be surprised to see Pummy stick on this. We haven't really seen a lot of long-range hit scan in this matchup. In fact, yeah, straight back to point, realizing that's not going to be the one that worked. Yeah. Wait, no, they're actually sticking. No, there we go. Okay, it's back over onto the Sombra. It was a little bit slow there with the swap. Zero already finding a lot of charge here, and G-Force, I think, unlikely to push this engage until Pummy is back in setup.
The thing is that Infected got all the way in the back line. Like, you see them kind of through it. Yeah, now they can kind of go back onto the healers, so this is great positioning for them.
Great stun there from Graham. Graham's having a real standout round here, really impactful stuff coming in from the big player here. Infected not quite able to land that power driver. Zero takes a lot of damage in that one, well below half HP, and still being pressured. But that tricky movement of the Echo allows them to survive through that. That's going to be the 1-for-1 trade, and with Madero down, a lot of that additional damage, things have gotten a lot harder here for G-Force, but that's not going to dissuade anyhow, who did a masterful chase there for Zero and forced them away from the point. We've already got 2 ticks gained here without a clean team fight win. G-Force just able to pressure Bearclaw away and basically again sneak that point out under Bearclaw.
Yeah, this has happened a few times, hasn't it? And now they should be able to get a few late kills. I mean, the respawn time shouldn't be as bad for the defenders if they kind of just throw themselves onto the point. Will also delay a little bit of that cart progress, but still very well thought from G-Force. They're going to have everything on the table now. They can keep pushing up. They can take space even more so than where the cart is. And I think it all is due to the fact that Infected set up in the back lane. Yeah, they were waiting on Pummy to get back into it after swapping from the Ashe to the Sombra, but no one punished Infected. He's just sitting there waiting for the engagement onto the support lineup, forces out resources and cooldowns really early on, the Shield Bash, as well as the Sleep Dart, and they just didn't have that to work with later.
Ooh, nice eat there from Clear. Odom Web didn't have that there for this next fight, but we'll have that back fairly quickly, probably with the EMP. I'm thinking we're looking at a nano boost engage here from Pink and Astronex. That's got to be happening fairly soon. There it is, in onto the supports. EMP out, and we also get the Transcendence. What a reaction, what a comeback, what a pushback. No kills just yet from either team here. This is a stalemate so far. Okay, one more time instead of the D.Va, has the high ground, gives that over, can't dodge the hack, but oh no, gets dived as well, gets taken out of that, and focused out of the pilot D.Va form. Magic Mate Ball fades to the background in the meantime, and Astronex one more time swinging away with the Primal Rage, but GeForce have made so much progress here. Bearclaw have the numbers, however. Pummy gets focused down by Tim, and that will be the hold on B, but look at the time bank here, and look at the distance travel required.
Yeah. And the fact that Bearclaw wins that fight but doesn't stop it on the corner, like kind of near where the clothing store is kind of crazy because look, this is basically at the second point capture now. So even with them winning the fight, getting all that utility out, they're still only one lost fight away from losing this point.
That's unfortunate there from Automoet. Just a second there, contemplation to look at exactly where the pulse bomb landed before deciding that wasn't really what they wanted here. We'll be closing in on yet another EMP, and that will be clear out of the protective armor of the D.Va mech. Looking to try and focus down the pilot bomb, and Madero with another Transcendent takes everybody alive. That one EMP pulled just for the heck of it. That's going to pin down the hack D.Va. Almost always a dead D.Va. There's the cap, and 4.5 minutes as we push into C here. Bearclaw on the back foot.
Bearclaw, I'm sure they're regretting not contesting that first point a little bit more than all GeForce basically all the way, despite losing that one fight. They still got so much cart progress, they still have so much time, 4 minutes. Do lose ultimate web, but this cart is continuing to move forward.
Okay, that's a big pushback from Bearclaw, and they come out of that pulse there. They don't need to use some pulse defense. GeForce back off, and they're going to be taking a second ability to come back in. Interestingly, Cubby's making the swap over onto the Cassidy.
I wonder if that's to shut down more the Echo or to shut down the Tracer more, because you'll be able to contest them in the sky, but also one flashbang and headshot to the Tracer and they are done for.
Confusion there, probably looking for that. I'm looking to dodge that anyway. So anyhow, it's in the back, it's a little bit too far, doesn't really find too much with that one. Self-destructing D-Mech here, one from the real D.Va, one from the fake D.Va, and probably forcing self-destructing the real D.Va of clear here. Astronex will have that ultimate online, won't need it here, takes a lot of damage, and actually falls here to anyhow, but ultimately it looks like GeForce are going to be losing. Oh, maybe not, as Anthony finds, sorry, anyhow finds a second one here, but in fact it just takes a world of hurt on that one and falls down here. This has been a great stalling tactic here from Bearclaw. They've already burned so much time on this.
How do you even engage this as infected? I feel like the best way is to go over the top. You just roll through tunnel. Everyone's going to focus you down immediately as you walk in. You saw that every CC ability in the game, and everyone was focus firing them. Let's see how that continues to develop. Bearclaw, they started to really solidify their defense. You only have to kill another 2 minutes and 40 seconds off the clock, and then they force map 4.
Let's not count GeForce out of this just yet. We do have ult to play with, no Brooks. And we also... Oh, that's unfortunate for anyhow. Squashed by the Winston in the middle of the remake. That really could have gone the other way here. Madero forced to run away with that Transcendence. And Magic Mate Ball falls the Force Bomb. Great stuff here again from Bearclaw. Half the time bank that GeForce came into this point with now off the table.
And they look completely all over the place right now, completely scattered and split. Tim is running wild, hasn't been stopped down, and now Pummy's back to the Sombra, so no more Cassidy. EMP is almost there. One good EMP could be all that's said and done. There should be at least an attempt to stall out based on where the car is right now. It's been pushed back quite a bit. But
I'm curious, what is it you try and combo with the EMP here, right? You know, typically you're looking for EMP plus something, and that's just not really happened so far. Nice to put on the minefield, finds the pile driver, and Ultimate Web takes Pink out of the fight, but not before Pink can actually get off that nano boost. I assume that went on to Astronex, can't quite see from that one, and anyhow he's out of the mech. Ultimate Web looking for that health back, can't quite find it quickly enough, and Ultimate Web is down. He's able to find an equalizer, and Astronex is receiving a heck of a lot of pressure as the EMP comes through. Anyhow, and Pommy start to turn the tides here, but in comes Graham with the rally. Makes who is left of Bearclaw so much harder to take off of this point. GeForce now back in the full stakes. Bear Claw the same. There's no shield except that of Magic 8 Ball turn, so you can interrupt that self-destruct. And Ultimate Web is down to Tim. Tim getting the upper hand on that one. And Stenner's out from Madero. They surge forwards at the back of it. I believe that out of the anti-healing covered some of that as well. And this is a chaotic fight, Jag. And anyhow, one more force out of the mech with 43 seconds left to go. This is Bear Claw's fight to win. We are so close to capping from GeForce. They just don't have the bodies on the point for it.
No, they don't. They keep losing Ultimate Web very early in those engagements. Ultimate Web keeps going so far back into their opponent, and then they immediately get focus fire down. I mean, you see the Discord, everyone looking at them. Well, there's no Discord on this side, but they're getting focus fire down pretty easily. So you're this Tracer. I think you just got to stay alive a little bit. Have all 6 people there. You do have ultimates here. Bear Claw will have some as well, actually almost everything. But if you use your ultimates first, get this eliminations, you can still win this one out if you're GeForce.
We've got to move fairly quickly here. People starting off with the minefield. Meadows able to find one here. But this is a lot of danger, a lot of point presence now for Bear Claw with that Nano Boost and Winston, who just pumps back into the minefield. And now all the rally on the field from Magic 8 Ball. GeForce has switched this around. We've got the duplicated Diva to deal with. We've got the rally to deal with from Graham as that just comes online. This could be the ultimate zoning self-destruct, but it finds no kills. And the transcendence from Madero has kept everybody nice and healthy on top of here. Make all down. Self-destruct from anyhow. Finds the kill, takes Astronix off the table, and this is so close to
They don't touch!
Just at the last second they get off it, and Bear Claw put a point on the table and take us to a map 4. This is what we were hoping for, Jag. This is going the distance.
It is. It's finally the first match this entire tournament where it's gone to extra maps. And this one, just as every other map has been thus far, has been a difference between inches and seconds. It looks like that fight was going the way of GeForce. It was the anti-nade. The anti-nade that came in at the end was ginormous. Pink, take a round of applause there. You absolutely just saved your team and kept them alive in this series. Shuts down any extra healing, gets rid of the Brigitte, the bomb that comes in, the self-destruct from the Diva. Isn't enough to keep GeForce in that, and Bear Claw, they hold on to fight another day.
Yeah, I think there's an element of eating humble pie here for us as casters. When we first looked at Pink coming in as a substitute, going, oh, well, you know, coming in, they've said they're a Mercy one trick. Like, they have put on such a strong performance on every role they've been on this game, whether that is the Mercy or it's the Moira or it's the Ana. Like, they have been phenomenally good all game long.
Absolutely. And I mean, their Mercy was really good too, but especially their Ana in that performance was immaculate. And yeah, I don't know what more can be said about that. You're completely right. We're eating a little bit of humble pie. It tastes pretty dang good because we get another map out of it. It's like a little bonus dessert on top of what we've already seen today. And I think this is going to be an interesting scenario for GeForce. This is going to be the first time they've lost a map in this entire series. I mean, Bear Claw was in that same spot a few maps ago. This is the first time they'll be picking as the loser now, and we already know what it's going to be, so we'll see what it is. It's going to be Route 66, so Bear Claw, they were able to win on this map before, and this was not their pick.
Yeah, interesting selection. We sort of did the theory crafting on Route 66 already, right? The last time we saw it in the rotation in the lower bracket final. Like, you know, do you pick this to try and force somebody off of a Wrecking Ball? But given that this is the map pick of GeForce, then no, you're not looking to force somebody off a Wrecking Ball. You want the best Wrecking Ball map possible because we've seen Infected wants to play the Wrecking Ball. So I'd love to know what the game plan is here, honestly.
Especially when you know that Bear Claw came out with a pirate ship with the bunker comp. They had the Arisha Bastion. So how do you run a Wrecking Ball into that? I mean, we talk about like the Sombra, the Wrecking Ball, they can be good deterrents, but a Bastion can melt you down pretty quickly. Even on engagement, you might never make it to the point because you just get destroyed by a blue beamed Bastion. So I don't know if Bear Claw is going to run that again, especially knowing that that strategy has already been revealed in their previous matchup. I wonder if they have anything else planned here.
I don't know. It's one of these moments where you'd love as a caster to be able to reach into the brain of the players or the coaches and figure out exactly what's going on. But we sadly, until we get those brain chips properly implemented, we don't have that capacity. So all we can do is speculate at this point.
Yeah, and speculation's my favorite thing because, you know, the Symmetra TP did not happen on Anubis, but, like, would have been pretty cool, right? And I guess the question is, it's really not what is GeForce going to run, because you've got a pretty good idea of what they're going to run. It's really down to Bear Claw and what, because they have come out with a number of different compositions. And we've already seen them run this map, so I think if you're them, you're probably thinking, all right, we've already shown our hands once. It was a bit cheeky, it was a bit, funny. Do we do it again? Do we try to force this into the Sombra that we know it's going to come out, as well as the Wrecking Ball that we know it's going to come out? Or do you kind of maybe alter it so it's a bit more heavy towards crowd control? You get the Torbjorn, like you have the turret on the cart with the Bastion, you have a Brigitte, and a Baptiste. You give it the Blue Beam for a bit of that shield bash, as well as the Whip Flail. There's a lot of things you can do here that revolve around like what you've already done, and then there's completely new things and new ideas you could bring to the table. Maybe you just bring out Brawl here and try to run them down with a Reinhardt.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not my problem to fix, frankly, because I don't know that I have the technical chops to do so. I was just listening to you list off. You put the Bastion, you put the Torbjorn, you give a Blue Beam to the Bastion. Maybe you've got the Brigitte there with the Whip Shot and the anti-dive potential. And on top of that, you take a big sign that says "No Fun Allowed" and you hammer it into the carts. Because I can't think of a less fun thing to have to play into. Right? Like that's such a pointy hedgehog of a defensive strategy.
One thing we do know is that there will be another sub for Bearclaw.
Interesting.
Zero, who's coming out for Bun, who I do not believe we have seen at all.
No, I don't think we've seen Bun so far. And it's, I wonder if this is a fatigue issue, because honestly, Zero has been performing phenomenally well. Like nobody's been having a bad showing today, but like, I wouldn't sub out Zero because I think they're doing badly. It's either fatigue or they're looking to run something very specific for which they would like Bun in, right?
Yeah, and we've already seen them do one sub with Pink, so this is not out of the ordinary for this team. And before we were like, they're probably going to run one specific character. The DPS pool, however, is much, much more wide than the support or tank pool. So guesstimating what it could be going to be much trickier. So
Doomfist Strat, calling it Doomfist Strat on Route 66.
I mean, we've seen Zero do it before. So and they look pretty good on the Doomfist. So
yeah,
I definitely could see it, but it would be a bit surprising. I'm trying to think of what other DPS we haven't really seen today.
Long range hit scan is the thing that comes to mind. I don't think we've seen much of that from anybody so far today.
Yeah, we've seen the attempt on the Ashe and the Widow a little bit here and there, but I don't think it's been super successful, and I feel like this is a very good map for Ashe.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing an era of Overwatch that really excels in that mid-range engage that really suits a Hanzo, that really suits an Ashe. So bringing in an Ashe here, I think makes a lot of sense. So let's see what the decision's going to be.
And we saw that in the previous Route 66, Abduction made it look really, really good on that Reckless side. Probably their standout player from that matchup, even though they weren't ultimately able to win it. That Ashe really was able to help them get across, whether it was the headshots or the dynamite blowing up and doing a lot of AoE over time damage. All those things were very impactful for Reckless when they were against Bearclaw. Speaking of Bearclaw, stayed alive, able to claw back into this. I'm going to keep using that pun as much as possible. G-Force, on the other hand, ended their first loss. They're still at series and tournament points.
Yeah.
Something's got to give here. Big Hungry Phil.
It has it. I mean, I'm slightly... I want to know the thought process here of bringing Bun in to have them run the Sombra and moving Tim over to the Ashe. I would have assumed it was to keep Tim on the sort of role they've been playing so far today, and yeah, it's a little bit confusing. Let's see how this works out. Coming out the gates from G-Force, though, well, Kelsa Breeze infected on the Wrecking Ball, anyhow sticking on the Sigma this time, and a lot of that mid-range poke composition DPS that we've seen from them previously.
And I mean, usually your Tracer player also plays Sombra, so it is a bit interesting to see Tim swatch over to the Ashe, but if it works, and they're going to have to do it alone, though. No Mercy Pocket to help them out, which is usually what you see here, especially going up against the Neko.
Yeah, great tracking there from Tim. Wasn't quite able to land the final blow onto Ultimate Weapon as they ascended through the air. Probably taking the opposite high ground here to where Bearclaw are set up and looking to find a pick here. Forget that these arrows do a lot of damage, can take out a Squishy very, very easily as a one-shot. Cart has made it all the way to the point where the high ground defense can control its progress without getting too deep into the weeds. Ultimate Weapon looking to rotate around the side here, lands the stickies. I think that was a nice big connect onto Astro next, get 50% of the way to having this DPK online. Just to duck momentarily away from Tim, and thinks him to get this amplification matrix online. Slightly weird position here, but oh, that was great stuff from Tim. This is going to be G-Force taken out of the fight entirely here, and Bearclaw with a successful defense on top of Big O's.
And I really liked the plan there from GeForce. They get the Sigma up on the high ground. I was talking about like way earlier that you can actually jump off the cart up there onto Big Earls. And then they get the roll through. But instead of focusing the people that were left on the high ground, they focused on everyone who falls off, which was much more of Bear Claw. There were so many more players there, and it was an immortality field. So interesting decisions there that lead to a lost fight. They do get a lot of point progress. But it's actually 2 minutes off the clock. That took a long time just to get to this point.
It was one long fight. You forget that actually we've had to fight a lot of this out so far. Great immortality field here from Think Survives right the way through at Dragon. And now we get the EMP of the Bob combo. One's able to find only Infected and Anyhow with that one, but GeForce ultimately will be stopped out here. I think having lost Anyhow makes it a little bit tricky, particularly now that you've got the Flux online as well, and the hack there onto Mid. Oh, actually, the hack expires. Madera keeps whoever is alive from GeForce through that gravitic Flux. This is honestly kind of messy stuff here from GeForce. I thought they were out of this fight, and they are still throwing their way at it.
Yeah, they do get Graham to use the rally, but I think it was just Madera who was in it, and I think they maybe saw an opportunity if I stay alive, we win this, but instead, Hanzo gets blown up, they just get blown up, more time off the clock. This is looking like it could be a full hold for Bear Claw. They have another Ant Matrix, they have the Supercharger ready to go, so damage on top of damage boost galore. It's looking pretty good. I will say, again, Graham using that rally could be something they really regret, especially if GeForce is able to, win, maybe not this fight, but the next one, and they could have had that defensive ult ready to go. But this is the best we've seen from Bear Claw on defense thus far.
Okay, well that's going to be the Supercharger online. Makes Bear Claw a little bit harder to dive just now. Maybe GeForce want to wait that one out. Infected, more or less in position to drop this minefield and expect a sort of yo-yo maneuver in over the top, but whilst we see that wait happening, Ultimate goes down. I don't know, Magic Maple also focused down here. Minefield comes through, looking for a couple of kills here to equalize, but they've not materialized so far. In fact, GeForce doing a great job of avoiding all of that. And, 30 seconds on the clock, and we've not got a cap on A here for GeForce.
Sigma Shield is a great counter to the mines. You just throw them all the way through. Didn't even have to use the Immortality Field. Pink still has the Am Matrix, but not too far behind on the EMP. There are going to be ultimates online for GeForce, but really it comes down to can the Dragon Strike and the Duplicate stall it out, because that's what you're waiting for, and you get hacked out.
Man, that's unfortunate. Ultimate Weapon with the ultimate ready to go, hacked off and deleted. Dragons finds nothing as the Immortality Field comes into play. We got the tank to the point here. Was Infected moving over onto the Orisa, but it's Bun with the EMP that hits 4. Looking for a bit of cleanup now, but they don't find Madera. Madera sweeps back into Transcendence ready to go. Waits it out, and in comes the Gravitic clear, but the Bear Claw can just throw ultimate after ultimate after ultimate at this. Ultimate Wet back in, finally gets that online, and GeForce, in the chaos of the final few seconds of the fight, will find the kills they need to keep this going. Ultimate Wet gets hacked out of that ultimate, but it doesn't matter, the damage has been done here for GeForce, and it was so close to being done and dusted here. We will see a point B.
GeForce fighting all the way till the end, able to finally pull it out, and Madera was still the Transcendence up when the EMP hit, so they were not affected by it. They still got the Discord Orb. They were still doing healing for the last few seconds, even when the Bob was up. I think it ended right as they threw the Bob in. So through all that, you think the EMP is going to be the end-all, be-all because the Transcendence used early. You gotta wait for the Transcendence to end first. That is when you strike next. Striking a little bit too early allows GeForce to stay alive in this, and they don't have a lot of time to work with, but it's enough time to potentially get this third point.
I think it's fair to say that things have devolved here into Double Shield versus Double Shield. Takes on the Orisa. Madera has the high ground, takes a bit of a wing, can't quite get the damage across that they wanted, but Tommy has found Pink. Pink did get the Amplification Matrix up, but it looks like GeForce have rotated their way under it and are starting to find kills. This is significantly quicker progress through B than we saw them make through A. Bear Claw are battered, bruised, bleeding, and beating a hasty retreat. They might get another recontest here at the end of B, but it's going to be a difficult one.
Especially losing Astronex near the very end. Orisa, you don't have to rely on your Sigma to be the main take. I don't think they're even going to bother. I think they're just going to give this up. That is a blazingly fast time on point 2. It was just one fight that never ended, never went the way of Bear Claw. And after what was almost a full hold, there's a pretty good timing for GeForce, 230 to get all the way to the end. Looking much better than it was previously.
Yeah, of course, this final point gets harder and harder here for the offense as the respawns increasingly favour Bear Claw. Obviously, the Dragons are out for me. Can hear the ticks there of some damage coming through, but that is a stonking great big EMP. All 6 caught in that one. Anyhow, the only one to fall so far. It's to be an even trade as Astronex is down as well. Ultimate Web able to find the double as the EMP, as the hack comes through even. Burn at very low HP. Magic Maple able to keep the tanks alive through that with the sheer volume of the healing output here from the Baptiste. And Infected starts to swerve forward. We'll have that Supercharger ready to go in the next fight as well. And GeForce are just keeping up the pressure here, Jag.
Yeah, the swap onto double shield has been monumental. That's not even a word. It's good. It's very good.
I agree.
Monstermental, yeah, something like that. It's been great for GeForce. Now they have the bongos. It's going to go into the Bob. Riddick Flux comes out, but they lose Pummy really early.
Yeah, actually, that's great for Tim. It might only look like Constructs that have gone down, but taking the Supercharger out of the fight is incredibly impactful. So Bearclaw with a momentary option to get a little bit more in the midst of things, but other weapons to find Tim. There is the Supercharger and the Amplification Matrix. There is so much damage to that. You can't even believe it, and they put that to incredibly good use here with 4 quick kills on the trot. We're looking at 70 seconds in the bank here for GeForce, and Bearclaw in charge of the payload.
You want to learn how to counter a Transcendence? That is it right there. Supercharger plus Ant Matrix. So much damage. Not even 500 healing a second can save you from that. And it makes GeForce, they go back to the drawing board. They still have a Dragon Strike. It could be great to be used with the Halt, the mini Graviton Surge, as some like to say. It pulls everyone into one spot. But the Immortality Field from Pink, if it's there, it'll save everyone. It's going to be a lot of action right here in these last 40 seconds.
Getting close to having this EMP. There's a lot of pressure onto Ultimate Weapon. Pummy's able to find a pick here. Pummy's able to find a second pick, and it's going to be infected with the third. This is now great for GeForce in the final minute, the final half minute of the fight. Tim is still alive and causing problems, but Pummy is more alive and causing even more problems here. The hands over is clear. Goes down. We're on this final stretch into this cap, and I just don't think anyone from Bearclaw can make it. Astronex now on the Wrecking Ball, looking to Wrecking Stall their way out. They can't quite make it happen. EMP out, and Bun finds 3. There's nobody there to follow up that EMP. They have a nice stall tactic, may have made things a little bit harder here for GeForce, but ultimately Bearclaw wanted kills here, and Infected is piling in the damage here, just going right up into their head hitbox at the right half. We have not quite had here yet. We are less than a meter away from finishing, and Pink swap over on to the Zenyatta that rounds things out here for Bearclaw, and this is exactly the position we were in the last map, Jag.
It is absolutely GeForce. They can't get it all the way to the end. It looks so good. They just weren't able to stop everyone who was contesting. The Bob, I think, also was just a huge way for Bearclaw to get back into that. That ultimate is able to stop so much. Just a big boy, right? Just he's able to eat so much damage, do so much damage. Everyone else able to come back into the swing of things. Tim being able to stay alive was huge.
My favorite analytical point anybody has ever made about Bob, because it is so true. He is such a big boy.
He's a big boy. He's a thick boy. Some might say he's honestly a great shield to hide behind because he's so big. He's so wide. I mean, he's working out. He's doing his thing.
The word girthy on.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, but not only that, I mean, the fact that he actually stays in one place is good for you because you can literally just hide behind him while he puts out all that damage. You can heal him and keep him alive. And it didn't work on the first point when they threw him in, but that time, at the very end, it was enough. And then Pink just doing things that they've been doing all game, showing us that their support pool is very vast.
GeForce well and truly giving into the meta here with the double shield coming out and Infected off of the most mobile hero in the game into the least mobile hero in the game in the form of Orisa. You can almost hear his soul crying out from here, and it's Bearclaw's match.
Yeah, Bastion main was happy before, now they're crying. That's just, it's the same thing. It's like the tingle, it's like, oh man, Orisa.
Evil Post is very happy.
Well, double shield versus double shield. I mean, in fact, it's definitely comfortable on it. Like, they're not like, just a one trick. I think they really just wanted to run the Wrecking Ball for as long as they could, but I think they're now realizing, hey, like, we got to take this game seriously. This Bearclaw squad came to play.
Yeah, this has not been a pushover for anybody here. This has been a knockdown, drag-out fight for both teams. Equals the big hold here. We do have probably playing an off angle. Tim has spotted them, but very hard to nail down a Hanzo here. Payload making good progress. It's now at the point where the defending team can hold this if they have to, just by getting a little closer to the edge. And they've used that high ground to their advantage. Pink, Tim, and the Immortality Field all taken off the table here. And it's the two tanks caught in a bit of a tank tango underneath Big O's. Not long for this world as the music plays, and they go back to spawn.
what a great decision there from GeForce to force them under Big Girls into, I guess, the actual room in it. I'm not like, is it a gas station room? I'm not really sure what it is. And yeah, and they were just able to pincer them from there. Just, I mean, as you know, Sigma, his primary fire, it bounces as well. You just wait for everyone else to get down there. You're able to stall off time, and that's a minute and a half gone in a fight that was won in the first 45 seconds.
Swap over on Tracer, obviously no changes yet for GeForce, and Run out to get that Dragon online. Amplification Matrix put to immediate, very strong use here as the Tracer goes down, and that was actually a very clever positioning of the Dragon. It comes up underneath, but Mortality Field is there to keep them alive through that one, and it means they can convert all of that into quick charge for their supports. And Street Dragon out for me. All of their core make themselves scarce, but we have the first pick coming through. That's Tim down to Madero of Infected Charger. We're not going to find too much here. For a bit of flux, but anyhow, just to round things off here. Ultimate Weapon finds the finishing blows, and Astro next is down. Less than 2 minutes on the clock now, Jag.
Yeah, and that's 5 ultimates that came out from GeForce just to hold that. So a bit of an overcommitment. The res was really well timed. That's all you know. All you have is the Valkyrie to try to sustain through this fight. Look at Bear Claw. 1, 2, 3, almost 4 ultimates are ready to go, including the Transcendence. GeForce, they might have shot themselves in the foot a little bit with all of those ultimates, but if they're able to win this fight cleanly and build them up again, then everything I just said means nothing.
I think they're really relying on an early pick from your Ultra Weapon here to slow the roll of Airfall. Let's see if that can happen. Good angle control here, but they're not really in a position to find the head hit shot to get those kills. There we go. Graham is down, and that is a lot of bulk healing taken off the table. Yes, Pink can kind of counter that by putting the Transcendence, but they don't want that here, so Aircore, I think, will slow down for now.
No, they lose Ultimate Weapon, and Magic Maple actually used the Valkyrie, so the only ultimate they had on the table, they lost, but they're able to get the DPS the last minute. That gives them time to get Ultimate Weapon back. That lets them build up more ultimates potentially. GeForce, it seems like they're in a pretty bad position ult bank wise, but they're doing all the right things right now despite having nothing left in the bank.
Always much harder to win a neutral fight against a team with ultimates, but GeForce are making this work. But I think Bearclaw are about to come in and just all slam Q at the same time and just win this by a force of will. Nice leap there from Pumides out of the way of Acrobatic Flux, and Magic Maple Force here. That Immortality Field not quite good enough to make that happen. Force Bomb out, and do you know what? It may have been a death, but Ultimate Wet there. Graceful out of the way of the rest of the team to come alive. Burn a bit more time off the clock here, but Airclaw have actually done this incredibly economically. They still come out of this with 4 ultimates. That's crazy.
The fact that they only used 2 there, I mean, I think really it was just like, all right, we got the Mercy off of the Flux. Tim, if you want to use the Pulse Bomb, go for it, because that's the fastest recharging ultimate in the game anyway, and it's always hit or miss. You know, it's not guaranteed to do anything there. I think the big thing is you get Madero's Matrix out. Despite the fact they lost one, they immediately go for it, and now Pummy's in a whole world of hurt.
He's in a lot of trouble here. Spamming the I need healing voice line. Still hasn't got it. There we go. Gets the direct hit there from the Baptiste's primary. Out comes the Dragon. Oh, a nice attempt to hold into it. The Dragon is a little bit high there, and the Hulk can't drag the team up higher. 1-for-1 trade. Graham down. Bulk healing taken off the table, but it did get the up. And blinking, you miss it. There was a duplicate online. I think that must have been onto a Tracer, maybe, to have died that quickly. And therefore, continuing to push on through anyhow with Flux. Transcendence and Pink matches that nicely. They still have the Charger online for Astronex. A lot of damage coming through here. It's time to shine with their own Supercharger online, and that's going to be Tim down. And Clear in a bit of a weird angle here on the left-hand side. This might be the hold here from GeForce for now.
If they're completely cut off from the rest of the team, don't think they're going to get punished for it, but the rest of the team might be. They're very far away. Everyone's super spread out on the side, so if they try to go take one fight, they win it, and it's going to be Graham that's the victim of this first.
Nice couple of kills here from GeForce. One still trying to find something here, but pocketed Echo, very hard to hit at this range, very hard to kill outright. And GeForce are taking us down one more time into the 1 minute marker now. Bearclaw will have ultimates to play with, but they want to get this done as quickly as possible.
And depending on how cleanly and quickly they can win a fight, GeForce might get another chance to contest this. This cart's not all the way around the corner, which means there should be one final attempt by the defense to hold on to this. I think right now, if you're GeForce, you think, all right, just force them to use ultimates, make them use everything they have, so that way we can bring the Thunder next time, and we use nothing here. We'll have to see what they end up doing.
Dragon's out maybe a little bit late there, and Tim's the one that finds the pick. Oh, but Magic 8 Ball brings them back into fight, and Pummy's able to find Bun in the meantime, who nearly had a Dragon of their own online. And this is being very, very scrappy here, but Astronix playing in for the application rate, because they can't get anything done. Oh, almost had that Nano Boost, almost had that hit online, but it's only direct effective. Trying to come to kills. PC Clear is in a lot of trouble here, down at low HP trap in no man's land behind enemy lines. Therefore, if we start moving again, but we are into overtime. Dragon Strike out from Bud. Looks like they may have been a little bit high there. I think intended to try and find Affected on the high ground, but didn't really work out. G-Force give up a little bit of ground here as Bearclaw regain control of the car. Infected focused down by Tim with a bit of help there. Still feet. There's the duplicate this time, and 3 quick kills here. Tim's got it. Oh no, Tim was so close that. How was he not on that? That was incredibly close.
That was a millisecond of a difference there, and again, it's one of those situations where you don't know if they can actually win that out. It might just be in vain, but that's still so unfortunate. We saw the blink, they timed it, they thought, all right, I'll make it, and just time expires too quickly there. G-Force, they don't get the full cap, but they do get the map win, they get the series win, and what a grand finals it was. I mean, we're talking about this. This was chaotic. This was crazy. This is still amazing Overwatch to see with our own very eyes, and I am just so honored to have been a part of this broadcast. I enjoyed watching that so much.
Yeah, this has been after the first couple of rounds were 2-0 knockouts. It's great to see that we did actually get that map 4, and there was a minute here where Bearclaw may have dragged this back into reverse sweep. Ultimately, G-Force just a little bit too strong for that. Let's have a look one more time at the bracket and see where we are and how we got here. It's not quite been the 2-0 or 3 Overwatch that G-Force might have liked here, but only giving up 1 map over the course of the tournament. I think they're going to be pretty happy with that one. They're happy with first place and $75 going to G-Force. Commiserations and congratulations at the same time to Bearclaw coming in second place. That $25. Hopefully we see a little more from them on the path to pro in the wider Overwatch tournament scene, because that was a very entertaining match to watch, Jag.
They forced G-Force to match them. They forced them to go double shield, which I think was not the play. I think they were going to run Wrecking Ball into the ground if they could, but I think they realized, hey, like this is a map where we have to match them, and they did get their blow for blow, were able to kind of outduel them by the end. But in general, this was a series that went the distance. I mean, it doesn't go to 5 maps, but every map was just one fight away from going the other way.
Yeah.
Looking back, Control, 100 to 99, and then 200 to 0s going each team. Assault was 2-1, came down to one final fight. Looks like Bearclaw could have won that one out. And then on Numbani, again, one final fight. Looks like maybe that was going to be 3 Overwatch, but Bearclaw were able to stay alive. Just a great, great series. This last map was probably the least close of all of them, and still, it was down to the wire at the very end.
Yeah, it really was a fantastic series. Great way to spend an afternoon. Been very thankful to be a part of it. So thank you to L8TENCY for putting this on. Look forward to seeing more from you in the future. And of course, thank you to our sponsors who out with this would not have been possible. I got there in the end, Jack. So thank you to Dude, Claim Your Fame, and to Keo. Your sponsorship, very helpful, very much appreciated. Thank you to all the L8TENCY staff behind the scenes that are involved in putting this together. Thank you to Duke, our wonderful producer and observer, who was bringing you all the action visually through the camera today. Thank you to Jag for casting with me today. And finally, thank you, all of you, for sticking with us and watching today's show. Hope you've enjoyed watching it as much as we have bringing it to you. Jag, before we sign off, any final words?
Just again, thank you to L8TENCY and all our sponsors. Well, thank you, Phil, for being here with me today. Another thank you to Juke and the L8TENCY staff. So basically repeating everything you're saying, but this was a great tournament. It was a great thing to be a part of, and hopefully there's going to be more of them in the future. If you want to follow me, find out what I'm up to, be sure to follow me at JagCast on Twitter as well as Instagram, and as well as Phil. It's BiggHungryPhill, 2 G's in that big, on Twitter. And yeah, he's a great guy. You definitely want to see what he's up to. He has some hot takes, I gotta say.
Okay, that's maybe a bit of a backhanded compliment, but I'll take it anyway. And of course, please follow L8TENCY on Twitter. That's at L8TENCY for more tournaments, not just in Overwatch, but in other games coming your way. But from myself and from Jag and everybody here, that's going to be it. We're done. We'll let you go. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Good night.